Deputy Speaker.
Let us pray. Almighty God, where you have called us to govern this province, we ask your help to make decisions and laws that will be just and will promote the interests of our people. Almagtige God, ons bid dat u gedurende ons vergaderings ons die nodige wysheid sal gee en ons motiewe suiwer sal hou en dat u ons sal help om ons tekortkominge te oorkom en al ons besluite aan u op te dra. Sikelela ilizwe letu na bantu balo umuseli ukulunga kwipondo letu unkosi sikelele i Afrika kina abantwana bayo kokela inkokele yazo yiniko ikolo i Afrika. All this we beg in your holy name. Amen. You may be seated. Honourable members, before we proceed, I would like to remind members about some of our logistical arrangements. Members, you will be fully aware of the relevant directives, but I would want to draw your attention to some of the pertinent directives. Suppose a member of this particular provincial parliament elects to participate virtually and not from the chamber. In that case, such a member is responsible to ensure that he or she has a good quality data connectivity, good quality audio and video, and that there are no disturbances where they are. Members would note that the hybrid system has been functioning extremely well. Poor audio and or video is not attributed to the system, but rather to the quality and data connectivity. All other directives, members of this particular house would be fully aware thereof. Honourable members are also reminded that no interjections are permitted during these hybrid sittings. To this end, I draw members' attention to Rule 40 of our standing rules. I will now, in terms of Rule 150, recognize the Chief Whip.
Thank you very much, Honourable Deputy Speaker. Honourable Deputy Speaker, notwithstanding the provisions of Rule 20, I arise and move a motion that the debate receive precedence.
Are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? No objections, agreed to. Members, in terms of the subject for discussion, we will now deal with it in the name of the Honourable Nomi Nkondlo as printed on the order paper. I now recognize the Honourable Nkondlo.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Good afternoon to colleagues in the House. We meet today on what is known and declared as an International Charity Day. And on driving to work this morning, one was listening to Dr. Bam being interviewed in SAFM, where he called for using charity as a weapon of resistance. This, he suggests, be done by all, especially business, not only as philanthropy, but a much needed intervention in the current times of economic strain and high levels of inequality in our country. This could not be further from the truth and resonate with today's debate of what can be the claim of building an inclusive economy and prosperity for all when we neglect the informal sector of the very economy. What is the opportunity cost of such a neglect and policy indifference to the very group that suffers vulnerability, not of its own making, but due to deliberate policy choices we make and the burden of inherited structural defects in the very economy? Let us then debunk the mythology about informality and political economy around informal sector against the mainstream that is regarded as formal economy. The conception of informality has been written about and argued a lot in the public domain, with a theory that one wants to use in this debate referred to as center and periphery. The center-periphery framework has been employed to explain the international political economy, wherein the rise of capitalism and the nation state in the 16th century global market forces, not domestic ones, have determined the national economic development or underdevelopment. It says, and I quote, "The structural form of this process, which has persisted over time, is one in which core manufacturing states dominate, exploit, and make dependent peripheral states which operate primarily as raw material producers for the core. In short, peripheral countries exist and have always existed to service the economies of the core countries, contributing to the development of the global periphery. That ensures the development of underdevelopment." This theory refers to domination that drives and reproduces inequality and use formalization as a form of exclusion of underdogs by the top dogs. Informality is a twin or resultant of formality, which by extension is an intentional disregard of others, mostly the vulnerable livelihoods in the socio-economic ladder. A case in point is how the formal sector flooded the informal sector with defects, poor quality products, and surplus goods from their main production lines into the informal sector as a way to still keep an undeclared benefits from these goods. These are goods that, according to formal regulations, are to be regarded as waste and destroyed, but these are found in the streets under informal trading, still driving the marketing of the main brands and enabling consumption of what are supposedly to be spoils in the formal sector. This theory further points out that internal colonialism is concerned with patterns of domestic territorial inequality and with the various ways a core or center region or communities controls and exploits a peripheral region or regions or communities. The geography of informality is once again an added burden to the informal sector, masked under sophisticated policies of segregation, racialized subdivision, and special frameworks with gendered layers wherein women are left to trading spaces with even no ablution facilities. The townships, smaller towns' geographies remain an apartheid inheritance and its racialized capitalism in South Africa, wherein a particular racial groups were regulated through Group Areas Act and other segregation laws into dormitories meant only for sleeping and wake up to go serve the master in the center in posh suburb with a dompas on their chest. These spaces were never meant for any productive work, nor practicing any business activities. And to date, municipalities will speak of local economic development with little or no disruptive interventions to the economic infrastructure that is lacking for entrepreneurs in these spaces. Instead, rules and laws are imposed upon informal spaces and sector with no regard of the very structural challenges of our economy. Those in the periphery experience domination by the center and the elites who are protected by the state by means and use of force, domination through speeches of politicians as proxies of the elite, domination through rules, intimidation, and incitement. We had been exposed to this domination in this very province and city, wherein the state power is used to harass the informal sector to compliance, with the city of Cape Town sending dogs and law enforcement to confiscate goods of informal traders from the streets under the nobility of enforcing bylaws. The very Metro has chosen to manipulate the national legislation in the National Road Traffic Act to deal with the taxi industry, which is called informal, to a point of scope overreach and mixing separate legislations that are about roadworthiness of the vehicle with national traffic legislation that is about offences of drivers in a super bylaw to unleash a reign of terror over the taxi industry. An industry that mainly employs a lot of unskilled men and also ensures jobs of those and feeding a lot of households. An industry to date that actually is predominantly the main one that delivers commuters and most of people that are going to work in this very province and the city, thus contributing to the productive capacity of ourselves as the public sector, but also the private sector that we all speak about. What is interesting is that this very government has a different approach to deal with public failures when it comes to big business. And what we've seen is the red tape reduction program with a unit created and funded to deal with any shortcomings that affect formal businesses. And mainly these formal businesses are global in nature, big corporates that we are told and always propaganda around foreign direct investment that is so important, and therefore we need to ensure that we make way and speed in any of challenges that they may face. Of course, these are necessary for growing any economy. The argument that we are making is that if there is capacity, propensity and appetite by our government to create a red tape unit and ensure that you smooth any challenges that are affecting global multinational companies, such must be the case also for informal businesses, and also ensuring that we work very closely with Result, with the municipalities to enable fair trade also for small and informal businesses that are actually trying just to fend for themselves in the spaces that they are finding themselves. This also includes the gender aspect of this particular problem, a problem where women are forced to actually be pushing trolleys to move from their houses in the early hours of the morning to go and trade in spaces that are not safe, where there's not even law enforcement that is actually sent to ensure that it protects women. To date, we've got situations that these women are operating, some of them, in areas where, as indicated, there are no just basic services for them. They go into the spaces of their trade, carrying children on their
Honourable
backs
Member,
in the hours.
please
early hours of
conclude.
the
You'll have
morning.
another opportunity.
We want to place in record that we shall continue to fight for informal sector in this House until the ears of those that are making decisions can hear.
Thank you so much, Honourable Member. I now recognize the Honourable Minister for Police Oversight and Community Safety, Anru Maree.
Deputy Speaker, I want to thank the Honourable Nkondlo for a thoughtful topic on the opportunity cost to neglecting the informal sector in realising an inclusive growth and prosperity for all. How she dealt with the topic was her own choice, of course. One hopes for their own sake that a day will come when the Western Cape ANC will realise that spreading untruths and half-truths about the Western Cape government is futile. If they were to come up with well-researched, data-driven policies, they may find themselves not losing a third of their voter support in a single election, as we saw in May. Deputy Speaker, I'm going to focus on extortion's impact on especially informal sector in impeding the realisation of inclusive growth and prosperity for all. Extortion is a growing problem in the Western Cape. It impacts on broadly 3 levels. Firstly, there is a self-styled construction mafia which holds back macro development. Secondly, one finds the old school protection money which extortionists force out of business owners, especially nightclubs and drinking establishments. Thirdly, and on a personal level most tragically, there are extortionists who target informal traders like the ladies who sell vegetables on the pavement to eke out an income and keep the wool from the door. These extortionists will demand their small profits and more to force her out of business and force another family under the breadline and into the SASSA queues. Deputy Speaker, extortion can lessen economic activity as people may be reluctant to participate in small businesses. Extortion will erode the small income of the entrepreneur and lead to greater poverty, deepening the poverty trap and making it harder to escape that trap. Extortion often leads to violence as those who are extorted resist, leading to even more violence in the already volatile community. As a result of the extortion of informal traders, large businesses may view extortionist-focused areas as too high a risk and close their shops, meaning that the poorest of the poor will have to travel further to an outlet or pay off extortionists. In fact, extortion already has a devastating impact on informal communities, leading to even greater poverty and worsening social ills. This sector, comprising small businesses and self-employed individuals, often drives innovation, creates jobs and fosters community resilience. As far as the Western Cape government projects go, extortionists are currently targeting government infrastructure building projects worth almost 400 million in Driftsands, Tambo Village, Delft, Valhalla Park, Matroosfontein and Ravensmead. This aggression cannot stand. What is to be done? The Memorandum of Understanding signed last week by the Western Cape Government, the National Government, SAPS and the City of Cape Town will have the combating of extortion as one of its priorities. We are currently negotiating the implementation agreement. We have also recently seen greater success in combating extortion. Only last week, a minibus with eight alleged extortionists on their way to ply the illegal and murderous trade were apprehended by SAPS in Milnerton following strong crime intelligence work. When police stopped the minibus, the passengers opened fire. The police shot back, killing 4 and injuring 4 people, currently in hospital. Addressing the needs of the informal sector and combating extortion is not merely an ethical obligation, it is an economic imperative. Therefore, the message to extortionists is clear. The Western Cape will not stand for your criminality. We must win this war on behalf of all the people of the Western Cape, including its informal traders and the rest of its informal economic sector. Thank you.
Thank you. I now see the Honorable Petrus. Honorable Petrus.
Baie dankie, Speaker. Ek staan namens die Patriotische Alliantie. Tussen 2021 en 2024 het die Wes-Kaapse regering nagenoeg tussen 5 biljoen en 6 biljoen rand belê in klein en medium besighede. Hierdie syfers lyk goed op papier, maar as dit by besighede in die plattelandse gebiede en besighede in die townships kom, verander die prentjie drasties. Die grootste gedeelte van hulp gaan aan die metro. Bruin, swart, jeug en vroue besighede kry nie genoeg van die begrotings nie. Dit is vir die PA 'n groot bekommernis dat besighede in landbou en vervaardiging agtergelaat word. Die intervensie vir die ontwikkeling van township besighede en besighede buite die metro is nie effektief nie. Ons vra dat meer geld belê word om township besighede, vervaardigingsbesighede en landboubesighede dat daar meer geld in belê word. Speaker, streke soos die Weskus, die Tuinroete, Karoo en die Oeverberg kan nie verder agtergelaat word nie. Hulle moet ook gehelp word met infrastruktuur, mentorskap en meer befondsing. Dankie.
Thank you so much, Honorable Petrus. I now see the Honorable Kasim.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, despite apartheid and colonialism ending almost 3 decades ago, the informal sector of our economy continues to be neglected, affecting majority of Black people who are out in the streets on a daily basis, working hard to put food on the table. Deputy Speaker, there's a continuous lack of effort and commitment given to this specific sector from the government. And as we can remember, the informal sector was also hit the most during the COVID-19 pandemic. And as a result, to date, many informal businesses are still struggling to get back on their feet, whilst others have shut. Deputy Speaker, I would also like to take this opportunity and focus on local traders in the informal sector, because we know very well that it is the poor households those in poor households who are engaged in the informal sector businesses like local traders who are often faced with challenges which include harassment and intimidation from law enforcement. Deputy Speaker, we often witness how 6-year-old traders are being thrown in the back of law enforcement vans for not having permits to trade, and how their goods are confiscated and then having to purchase their stock back in the form of a fine. Now, all of this happens despite the government knowing that these local traders who play an invaluable role in our economy, especially to the poor who sometimes can't afford to purchase from big retailers. Deputy Speaker, we must really question why these informal traders are even paying a trading fee when we know very well that they are members of poor households whose businesses are strictly based on street vending or hawking, selling small quantities of goods and services to the poor. And we must also ask why is much not being done to prioritize those in the informal sector to create better and safer trading environments along with better facilities. Because the key issue is the sector is faced with not only that of facing municipal policies that don't speak to the poor, but also that of a lack of funds, infrastructure, and even education and training, all which can be used to develop and grow the sector. Deputy Speaker, we must highlight the fact that in the informal sector, like traders within different communities, are also highly vulnerable to getting infected by diseases as they not only live in congested spaces but also work in congested environments with no toilets, water, and clean sanitation. But lastly, Deputy Speaker, like any other business in this country, informal traders must also be the first to be protected from protection fee extortionist gangs, which is increasing across the province. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Kasim. I now see the Honorable Masipa.
Deputy Speaker, we cannot discuss the opportunity cost of neglecting the informal sector without deeply reflecting on what has led South African cities, especially the metros, to a disastrous situation of rapidly rising informal settlements. Allow me to lay the foundation by painting the picture that has led to this rapid rise. In 2007, in my capacity as regional head of Nedbank Home Loans, I was part of the Nedbank team at the sword-turning ceremony for the Khayelitsha Lifestyle Housing Project. This project was supposed to be a partnership between government, Nedbank, and Old Mutual. Sadly, it was never realized. Over 500 housing opportunities were lost because ANC communist-aligned community organization apparently wanted to benefit first. Old Mutual provided the land to the community of Khayelitsha for free, and we at Nedbank were ready to provide property development and end-user finance. However, the private sector withdrew because it could not budget for ANC-associated extortionists. It is no secret that the ANC government had undisclosed budgets for corruption, which almost collapsed the economy during the 9 wasted years. The Zondo Commission laid bare the quantifiable details of the corruption caused to the economy by the ANC government, thanks to the GNU. And today, members on the left cry foul of poor service delivery. Let's look at what the ANC government did after the commission concluded its work. Instead of jailing the culprits, it rewarded them by keeping them in positions of power. Figures like Tiger still holding ministerial position. The justice system was underfunded, rendering it ineffective. Shockingly, according to the study by Wits University VIP Protection Unit, has nearly 17,000 employees, which is 9% of the total police force. Recent reports indicate that the Minister of Justice facilitated the theft of poor people's money, the VPS. Shame on you. The Zondo Commission reportedly cost the country 1 billion to investigate corruption. It is worth noting that it is reported that 500 billion rands was looted and 0 assets have been recovered. This is the money that could have created almost 1 million jobs and business opportunities. Something deeply hurting to many South Africans is the corruption and failures in land reform under the ANC government. Now, 30 years later, informal tenure rights in villages and former homelands have not been addressed. A Pillar bill has made it easy for some traditional leaders to do as they please with land under their jurisdiction, providing residents with no economic value. While members of the community live in beautiful houses and spacious places in those villages, their only assets with value are the informal settlement and trade in urban areas. Due to lack of economic upward mobility, many migrate to cities seeking better opportunities. Bravo to the City of Cape Town and other DA municipalities, which are doing all in their power to provide job opportunities, running water and sanitation. Thanks to the cross-subsidization that's helping this informal sector to thrive. Land reform has failed people living in informal settlements. Organizations like Ndifuna Kwasi, Development Action Group, Community Organization, and many others have approached the presidency to release land for mixed development and self-building housing. Additionally, a botched land reform farm has led to over 100 people in Mamasbury being displaced because of failed dam maintenance. Again, the ANC government. Esan Haida described Cape Town's informal situation as presenting complex socio-economic challenges that require comprehensive and collaborative solutions. By investing in infrastructure, empowering communities, and implementing supportive policies, Cape Town can work towards creating inclusive and resilient urban environments for all citizens. This description is extensive, honorable members, but I'm happy to inform the August House that through our oversight work, we have discovered a great deal of work being done by the Department of Economic Development and Tourism to create jobs and jobs opportunity and reduce poverty. These programs are a platform for our residents to move out of the trap of poverty caused by the uncaring ANC government. All said and done, let us look at what the DA governments are doing on the ground to support the township economy. 10 years ago, the city of Cape Town delivered a report indicating that 86% of its purchase orders were placed with BBBEE compliant vendors. The city noted, I quote, "This equates to more than 10.77 billion rands of our total purchase orders issued for this period." We are making strides as an opportunity city dedicated to bringing redress through empowerment, close quote. Furthermore, the city of Cape Town announced open quote, as part of our commitment to job creation, skills development, and employment support initiative, the city of Cape Town has offered assistance to more than 3,000 residents, including those residing in Khayelitsha, through its partnership over the past 18 months, close quote. Recently, the City of Cape Town Council, in its efforts to support the township economy, approved a 30% cut in informal trade tariffs. However, I will not be surprised if the ANC and the EFF voted against this cut. In 2024-25 financial year, the commitment by the City of Cape Town to informal township economy and small businesses will see an injection of 141 million rands towards infrastructure developments and upgrade to support this informal economy. Another program from the City of Cape Town, the EPWP Entrepreneurship Trainee Program, now in its third year, has produced entrepreneurs such as Pinky Hlengisa, owner of Loosepin Manufacturer. She is now operating her own textile business in Khayelitsha, employing 4 staff members, 12 trainees, and 13 distributors and manufacturers. Deputy Speaker, please protect me.
Members, honorable members, please note, please have a seat.
Thank you.
Honorable members, the running commentary. Please note that the member is wrapping up his particular segment. Please let us afford him. All political parties have an opportunity to engage in this debate.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. The City of Cape Town, through its business hub, has prioritized SMEs to help grow Cape Town's economy. Through its one-stop shop, it provides entrepreneurs with business and finance advice, assistance with building, planning, and permitting application, and the ability to pay the necessary fees. Listen, Mengontlo. In Harare, Khayelitsha, a project was initiated to teach economically marginalized women how to run a traditional clothing business. This 10
Honorable
women...
Masipa, please take your seat.
You have? Yes. Then you must address it.
Yes. Thank you so much. Member, please do not speak to a fellow member. Speak through the chair. Please continue.
In Harare, Khayelitsha, a project was initiated to teach economically marginalized women how to run a traditional clothing business. These 10 women received business skill training in basic accounting, negotiating, marketing, communication, and planning, along with sewing and beading training. This project forms part of Community Development Worker Program in partnership with the Western Cape Department of Local Government. In conclusion, Honorable Deputy Speaker, economic opportunities that create jobs, fund fiscal revenue, provide quality education, create job opportunities, provide housing, and ensure decent service delivery are at the heart of improving the lives and providing upward mobility. Hence, the Democratic Alliance has prioritized the growth for strategy. which aims to grow the economy through inward investment and export-led economy. If anyone is supporting the informal economy, it is the Democratic Alliance, who are always ready to clean up the mess left by the ANC national government of yesteryears. Thanks to the GNU. Members on the left, please join hands with the Democratic Alliance and let's stop the state capture reunion party. I thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you so much, Honorable Masipa. I now see the Honorable Jacobs. Honorable Jacobs. Honorable Jacobs. I will request that the table staff make contact with the Honorable Jacobs. I now see the Honorable Marais.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Deputy Speaker, bye-bye, donkey. Speaker, I want to remind this House that coloured people were the original informal traders on beaches and hawkers along pedestrian pathways of the Western Cape. This is no longer the case as informal trading permits are limited and many of our coloured traders have been denied permits. Many lost their informal trading business due to the COVID pandemic, never recovered, merely surviving currently. Reviving the focus on the informal sector has the potential to eradicate extreme poverty, food insecurity, and to mitigate crime, especially in the Western Cape. The food poverty line, according to Stats SA 2023, in terms of the March 2023 prices, is at 760 Rand per person per month. Currently, the government is giving a social relief of the stress grant of 350 Rand per person. Now, the youth unemployment in the Western Cape between the ages of 15 and 24 years and who are not in employment, not in education or training facilities, increased from 27.6% in the first quarter of 2019 to 28.1% in the fourth quarter of 2023. With appropriate skills and artisan training, they could potentially participate as new entrants to the informal sector, keeping them out of crime and gangsterism. In terms of the transport sector, our national income tax can be increased if we can successfully transition the informal and unregulated public transport services into our formal transport sector. This could potentially mitigate or end our national revenue shortfall in the medium to long term. In closing, Deputy Speaker, special attention must be given to the informal sector to improve the socio-economic fortunes of all our people. I thank you, Speaker.
Thank you so much, Honorable Marais. I see the Honorable Jacobs.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Am I audible?
You may continue.
Am I audible, Speaker?
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Speaker. I think the mic just went off when we spoke about the 2,000 teachers that are going to be retrenched to slutty mic off. Anyway, Speaker, the National Coloured Congress rises to state that the informal sector in South Africa contributes 5.1% to the country's GDP. It contributes to nearly 20% of the labor force nationwide. Speaker, the Western Cape, the informal sector contributes to a staggering 18% of the workforce, making the informal sector one of the single biggest employers in the province. But Speaker, as the NCC, we would rather refer to the informal economy as the alternative economy, as opposed to the informal economy, because there's really nothing that the informal economy is doing. The informal traders must apply and they must conform to many bylaw regulations in order for them to trade. But then again, Speaker, in a corporate world, the multi-billion retail companies, they can do VAT rebates, something that the informal economy would never be able to do. But Speaker, if each of the informal sector operators are able to employ just one person, the 18% will be around 32% employment created in the Western Cape. Now again, as the NCC, we want to reiterate that the big role the informal economy plays in creating job opportunities, not just 3-month contracts, but real sustainable employment opportunities. And if we can act now and support the alternative economy 100%, then this sector too will be hijacked by foreign nationals. We must protect the sector. Speaker, it is high time that we acknowledge the huge opportunity that the informal sector is creating as an employer enable. So within the province, we should treat it as such, and we must respect the informal traders. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Jacobs. I now see the Minister of Mobility, the Honorable Saleku.
Good afternoon, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, before I delve into today's sponsored topic, I would like to convey my deepest and sincerest condolences to the families and friends of the 12 workers who tragically lost their lives earlier this week, and wish the other workers who are still in hospital a speedy recovery. Deputy Speaker, today's topic lies at the heart of Mobility's goal of supporting a growing, diverse and vibrant economy. Speaker, Deputy Speaker, die informele sektor is ongetwyfeld die ruggraat van die Weskaapse ekonomie en dit verskaf werksgeleenthede aan getekende gemeenskappe en het boonop 'n uitgebreide effek. This is why we must not be fooled by this debate by the Honourable Member Nkondlo, as she is dismally trying to drive a certain narrative, and unfortunately the data and statistics speak volume. As the famous Amapiano DJ would say, tele volume lapho. Yes, let us blast the speakers of the successes of this government in supporting the informal economy. Facts and figures are not the only measures of our success, but testimonies from the informal businesses who have flourished after benefiting from our bicycle distribution program, sal hopelik die ongegronde narratief regstel en die regte konteks plaas. Televolume lapho. Deputy Speaker, through the bicycle distribution program, to date more than 640 bicycles have been distributed to SMMEs. This figure is growing every week as we continue to roll out the program across the province. Deputy Speaker, I am certain the Honourable friend Member Nkondlo is eager to know ngobani abasithetha ngabo okanye ngawaphi la mashishini sithetha ngawo. Just to mention a few, Organic Ghetto Lifestyle provides smoothies, juices, and healthy snacks from produce that is grown locally and freshly harvested. The bicycles have drastically reduced their transport cost in sourcing new raw materials. Guguletu Urban Food Forest Eco Club, launched at Betha House in Guguletu, has been a safe haven for school-going children across the Greater Cape Town for a few years. Member Nkondlo, the club teaches the young people about farming, food security, and general life skills. They are beneficiaries through the bicycle distribution program. The bicycles have been used as means of transportation, which directly speaks to the department's non-motorized transport focus. Deputy Speaker, so kan ek aangaan van die lys van die informele besighede wat in die betekenisvolle programme sukses behaal het, is te lank. The renowned Job Seeker Voucher Program has become the beacon of hope for the unemployed young people who are actively seeking work opportunities, is yet again our indirect support to the local economy. To date, 45% of young people have registered for the Job Seekers Voucher, has been able to secure employment through the program. Member Nkondlo, some of these young people were unemployed for more than 2 years, and on average now earns between 4.5 to 9,000 per month, thanks to the Western Cape government. These young people were able to secure a meaningful employment. Their earnings have a multiplier effect as they support the local economy. When they go to town to Mbengweni, they don't just go there and stand as bystanders. They are participants in the economy of the informal sector. They can also contribute to it. Deputy Speaker, the road ahead is filled with immense possibilities, and by prioritizing mobility as a catalyst for economic opportunity, we can build a Western Cape where every person has a chance to prosper. And I think it's about time that our opposition accept the fact that there's a GANU now, and we need to work together instead of always trying to criticize. I thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you so much, Honorable Seleko. I now see the Honorable Christians.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, the informal economy remains an untapped sector, yet has consistently demonstrated great potential to alleviate poverty and unemployment. Deputy Speaker, the informal sector engages in a wide range of businesses, some legal, some illegal. The activities exist outside the formal economy. The work and businesses they operate are characterized by limited job security, low wages, and a lack of legal protection. Businesses of informal sectors, we know, is not VAT registered and do not add to the national fiscus. The informal sector provides employment for 1 in 6 South Africans. This is equal to about 2.5 million workers across the country. Informal enterprises provide for about 850,000 paid jobs. That's reported by the Human Science Research Council. Speaker, we know that this untapped potential, if this untapped potential is realized, we as a country and as a province will benefit. Deputy Speaker, the mining industry, mining sector is about 180 billion, but the informal sector is also worth that much. Deputy Speaker, we are talking about a growing informal sector. We're talking about spaza shops, we're talking about hawkers, laundromats, street vendors, and car outlets, many much more. Some of these businesses are run from homes of business owners. Deputy Speaker, I believe if this untapped sector is properly monitored and assisted, we can see a drop in the Western Cape and also countrywide when it comes to unemployment. Because we know the Western Cape has the lowest unemployment rate in South Africa. But we want to see more. We want to see more, Deputy Speaker.
Please conclude,
needless
member.
to say, South Africa has the highest unemployment rate. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Christians. I see the Honorable Nkondlo.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. And Deputy Speaker, let me join those that appreciate the conversation, and the conversation meant to enable a spot, putting a spot on the matter on the informal sector and informal economy in our province and the contribution that it can make. And indeed, we can make a choice to play politics, to actually deviate, and deflect from what is being discussed, which is so unfortunate that the chairperson of the very committee demonstrates not taking a very important conversation of this nature serious. Instead, he feels that he must abuse the opportunity by just speaking off the cuff, unprepared, speaking all over the show. And we expect more out of him as a person who is chairing this portfolio. Unwilling to confront the truth, the neoliberals and their proxies have created political parties like the Democratic Alliance, funded them, appointed the most articulate politicians as lobbyists and implementers of the perpetual center-periphery reality. What we have came to know as the tale of the two cities, the tale of two economies, right here in the city we are in. We submit informality is a political construct.
Order, members.
Originating from drivers of underdevelopment in our country and particularly in this province. It encapsulates race and gender dimensions with majority of black people subjected to doing business under informal means and mainly are women. The entanglement between the neoliberals, as you would see them, getting highly charged now, and how they use state power to keep and maintain this system of exploitation and oppression. It is by no coincidence that under the DA rule, in this province and their municipalities, the informal sector is neglected and actually viewed as an irritation that an economy and rather than an economy that must be harnessed. The G4J is punted as the grand plan to create a R1 trillion economy with some gimmick of inclusive economy rhetoric, which is a default of a market approach under the current domestic and global trade hierarchies. We warn of similar gimmicks that were made by the very premier then when he was MEC under township revitalization that left those who were promised the Jerusalem of being formal, that indeed there will be many pick and pays, only to be back to spaza shops and others unemployed with a huge debt. The same premier promised citizens a job in each household, and we are still waiting, whilst the very informal sector has been recording employment, and actually in the taxi rank are found braving the cold, providing employment opportunities and also goods, convenient goods to workers as they rush to work. We call on the Economic Development Department, local government and finance to heed the call of informal businesses for favorable bylaws and ensure a legislative and regulatory environment that is friendly to these type of businesses. And actually, we call also on the provincial government and the premier and his cabinet to concede and actually look at the double standards being played under their nose, where compliance must not be used to suppress and further victimize those already thrown in the periphery of the economy. If genuine about creating an inclusive economy, we ought to commit to disrupt the apartheid methods of handling our economy and handling our people. At most, we need to ensure that the realities that we see in the informal spaces are changed, especially with this economy of the Western Cape that is always lauded to be ahead of others. Surely we can make something better than any other province. Yes, crime is a killer machine, and it's very interesting. The new MEC of safety can even speak about extortion. At least that is an improvement in the right direction. And indeed, we appreciate the MOU after all this time, that beyond the 1 billion no safety plan, which continued to leave this phenomenon of extortion unscathed. A 64-year-old street vendor was killed in Kraaifontein last week in this very province that is actually lauded as the best. Tourism Safety Fund was created, and actually through this Provincial Department of Economic Development and Tourism, money was even directed to the Tourism Safety Fund when a tourist was killed in Table Mountain. Interestingly, that when a tourist was hijacked and mugged in Nyanga, what we saw happening is that Nyanga was removed from the GPS coordinates. Double standards. In terms of the killings in the farms, what we saw is an initiative of Rural Safety Fund, which these are very much welcomed to protect our industries. But all what we are asking for is actually to really ensure that even in the townships where many entrepreneurs that the Honorable MEC of Transport, of Mobility was speaking about, that they do with those bicycles, they have safety, because I'm sure you would have listened to cries of many in Langa who actually joined this very noble initiative that they actually get those bicycles being taken by criminals. So it's one thing to come and grandstand here about initiatives that you definitely are deaf when it comes to some of the challenges of the environments in which these entrepreneurs are operating. So you use them here to grandstand and get points instead of actually dealing with the realities of the situations that they lived under. So we call on the Premier and his cabinet to act and stop making promises. Elevate the township and small towns economy in the strategy of G4J instead of it being an after effect or an afterthought. Engage
Please
the very
conclude, member.
entrepreneurs in those spaces. Follow the Gauteng province and see the township revitalization and combined with corporates in the property and retail spaces where indeed the informal sector is being taken serious. I thank you. Deputy
Thank you so much, Member Nkondlo. I now see the Minister of Cultural Affairs and Sport, the Honourable Mackenzie.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker, and thank you, Honourable Nkondlo, for this wonderful debate. And certainly we appreciate you bring such an important topic to the House, given the challenges we face in our community. Honourable Deputy Speaker, we have dedicated ourselves as the Western Cape Government enabling opportunities to thrive for all. We are working hard, but we acknowledge there is more work to be done. And interestingly, the Honourable Nkondlo spoke for the first 7 minutes and then again for the second 7 minutes. And I want to paraphrase what she said for the first 7 minutes, to quote Honourable Nkondlo. Some of the comments Honourable Nkondlo rightfully made was around policy indifference, failed fiscal and trade policy, spaces for people to thrive, structural adjustments, bylaws, etc., which also something Honourable Kasim brought out. And during the second 7 minutes, Honourable Nkondlo talked about neoliberalism, and she talked about the growth for job, which is very interesting because it was George Shaw who said, I often quote myself, it adds spice to my conversation, close quote. It was a witty remark that he played upon how he added conversation and ideas to himself. So the Honourable Nkondlo debated herself the first half and then the second half. Because the answers to her questions in this debate lies in questions I'm going to ask her that she should have posed in the first 7 minutes. The Honourable Nkondlo, via you, Deputy Speaker, talk about safe spaces, and she talks about policy indifference. The reason we are 405 at the Cape Town port on the latest World Index is because of policy indifference. The reason Nkura Port is number 401 on the latest World Policy Port Index is because of policy indifference. The reason Durban is port number 398 is because of policy indifference. The reason Port Elizabeth, aka Tobeka, rightly known as Tobeka, is port 301 is because of policy indifference. Products to and from our townships don't teleport there. Products to and from our townships gets taken there, but they have to arrive at a functional port. And our growth for jobs strategy, our trying to fix our economy in the Western Cape, is enabling small business and the township economy to thrive. So her question around policy indifference in her first 7 minutes, it is the ANC that has failed out when it comes to policy indifference. The questions around regulations and laws, it is the ANC that has failed us. The reason we have a GNU, I like the new name, a National Government of Unity, it is because of the policy indifference. The voters disagreed with the path of the ANC's trade policy. The voters disagreed on the way the country was going. The voters disagreed on the high levels of inequality. That is the reason we have a government of national unity. The Honourable Nkondlo talks about thanking Honourable Marais for the first time she's acknowledged extortion. The President, again, didn't teleport in last week, Friday. The President has been invited for years by Honourable Premier Ellen Windy, many members of this cabinet, members of the backbenchers, to come and deal with the tellings of extortion. He didn't just wake up Friday morning at the Union Building and said, let me fly to Cape Town. He arrived here because
Order,
we've
members.
been begging him for decades, for years, to deal with the challenge of extension. That is the reality of life. That is of the reality. Businesses in Khayelitsha, in Thembaletu, has to pay extortion. A teacher was killed the other day because he failed to deposit 50,000 rand in a bank account of an extortionist in the Eastern Cape. We've highlighted these challenges for years, honourable members. So when we talk about township development, we didn't just wake up and decide, let's invest in township, let's cut the red tape. The honourable members talk about, including honourable member online, Jacobs talked about red tape, and honourable Kasim to an extent. The reason Premier Ellen Windy 10 years ago, when he was the MEC of Economic Development, started the red tape reduction unit, because he saw it coming. The president, honourable, that is not unacceptable.
Honourable members, please be seated. Honourable Mackenzie, please be seated. Member Nkondlo, I am on the floor and you are continuing. I see the Honourable Thomas.
Chairperson, I didn't actually want to interrupt the speaker on the floor, but there was repeated shouts of lies, lies, lies to the speaker, including when it was pointed out that the national government runs the ports. It's an objective fact, yet it was shouted lies, lies, lies. Can you please make a ruling whether that is parliamentary?
Honourable members, we are fully aware of that particular word that has been used. I will check the answer and if necessary revert back to this House. But please let us maintain the decorum of this particular House. We are heading towards the end of this debate. Is this a different point of order, Member Masipa?
Honourable Deputy Speaker, I can help you if you want me to help you. Who said the minister is lying?
Please be seated. Honourable members, Member Lecker, honourable members, please, we are heading towards the end of this particular debate. Members of our communities that are listening are wanting to actually fully engage in this debate. So I will now see the Honourable Mackenzie to continue.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. Please ensure that I keep my time via you. Honourable Deputy Speaker, it is common knowledge that the red tape reduction unit was started in the Western Cape. It is common knowledge. It doesn't require debate or anything. The President has just started the red tape reduction unit last year in his office to deal with the red tape to ensure small businesses thrive. And if you really want to understand where the opportunities lie, Honourable Congo, you've really touched the right point, small businesses. But the Department of Small Businesses did not see the opportunity. It is the new Deputy Minister of Small Businesses in the DA that visited Mitchell's Plain last week. It is the new Deputy Minister of Small Businesses that is bringing a whole technical team to Mitchell's Plain next week, led by the Deputy Director General of Small Business Enablement. Check my Facebook, they were there last week, they're coming again next week. They love the opportunity they have. But the ANC ministers has failed to see the opportunity that you're seeing for bringing the debate here. They failed to see, to visit the small businesses in Mitchell's Plain, to lift them up. They're going to visit Kailicha as well, and I'm going to extend an invitation to you, Nkondlo, to join them. Because it's individuals like you who's put this on the agenda here, who understands the value of small businesses. But the National Minister of Small Businesses don't understand it. Luckily, she's now got somebody I can bietjie vorentoe kan stoot, 'n DA minister wat kan sê, gaan kyk wat gaan aan in Mitchell's Plain. So they're coming next week, and they were there last week to help us thrive small businesses. And I hope my honourable member Jacobs will help us to ensure that in Mitchell's Plain and anywhere else that those small businesses are registered for VAT. Because if you put VAT in, you get VAT out. Simple equation. It's not just a take. You must give, and the state will also give you back. Honourable Kasim raised an important point, but then she contradicted herself. If anyone were to get sick tomorrow, whether Mitchell's Plain, Strandfontein, or anywhere in Cape Town, because the city didn't check if they have a food certificate, she raises the issue of sickness later in the debate. Of course, she will come to this House and raises a concern. So anyone can operate small businesses, but we have to operate within the rules of the laws of the city or the government. That's how good functional societies function. The 10 commandments, don't kill each other, basic rules to make sure the human species survive. So there are rules and regulations for every small business, whether you're in Khayelitsha, in Mitchell's Plain. Please abide by each other so they also don't push each other out in the space allocated to them by the city of Cape Town. There are good success stories in Khayelitsha, in Mitchell's Plain, where small businesses thrive because the city has enabled them to thrive. That is what we need in our society. So Honourable Honourable Member Mare and Honourable Member Petrus, we agree with you around functional small businesses, but they need to operate in a safe, secure environment. That's why we're very happy that the President of the country came last week Friday, invited by Minister Mare, invited by the Premier, to come and sign an agreement to make our Western Cape safer, because a safer Western Cape will ensure safer economies, particularly in communities like Mitchell's Plain, Khayelitsha, Langa, Thembaletu, where small businesses are being hamstrung by extortion. We've been asking these things for years. The GNU is a great forwarder of helping these things to thrive. The GNU will make this country succeed, enabled by members Nkondlo who bring these debates to the table. So Honourable Nkondlo, the reason why the taxi, and luckily I was there, we were, and still to this day, as of today, the 5th of September, we're still the only government that has helped the taxi industry to succeed. We're still the only Western Cape government that has formalized the taxi industry. The first thing my colleague behind me, Honourable Seleko, did was to meet with the industry and talk about how can we assist you forward. It is not being done in other provinces. In fact, what we know is that the Eastern Cape has given the taxi industry via the backdoor permits. That's why the court ruled to say people don't hijack Inter-Cape. Please make sure that you protect Inter-Cape. There is the difference between ANC-led province and a Western Cape-led province. So thank you, Minister Seleku, for the good work in ensuring the taxi industry is formalized through Ishaela smart model that is going to continue in the future and roll out. There is the difference between us. We've enabled them, we formalized it, and we'll continue to ensure that there are rules and order in our industries so all of us can thrive, so that people don't get thrown out of taxis, that people don't get extorted like we see in KwaZulu-Natal now. They must, even taxi owners, despite the fact that they have got a great system for looking after themselves, even they are now being extorted in KwaZulu-Natal. So when we talked to them a year ago about protecting themselves from themselves, we knew what they were talking about, because we knew the extortionists were coming in. So our enablement, our making the Western Cape safer, our safety plan, our bringing the President here, it's exactly to ensure small businesses and economies thrive in the Western Cape. Protecting small businesses in Khayelitsha, protecting small businesses in Mitchell's Plain, and protecting small businesses in Thembaletu by having a functional, good relationship between provincial SAPs, our City of Cape Town, our Community Oversight Minister, led by Premier Ellen Windy. That is why President Ramaphosa came here last Friday, because he understood the importance of what a functional Western Cape government is doing. I thank you.
Thank you so much, honourable members. That concludes the debate on this subject. In terms of Rule 197, we will now proceed to interpellations as printed on the question paper. I now recognize the Honourable Minister Mania.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. We are not going to tolerate racism in our schools, and where allegations are made, they will immediately be investigated by school governing bodies who are responsible for establishing and enforcing schools' codes of conduct under the South African Schools Act, number 84 of 1996. But, Deputy Speaker, the reality is that our learners are unfortunately exposed to prejudice that is expressed intentionally or not at home or on social media or during social engagements. And that is why the school curriculum covers this topic extensively, and why schools' codes of conduct address it. If in the school curriculum, lower grade learners are taught about different cultural groups and major religions and concepts such as discrimination, stereotyping, and bias. And in higher grades, issues such as promoting nation building, citizens' rights and responsibilities, and respecting differences in terms of race, gender, and ability are covered in our curriculum. We want to ensure that these topics are discussed and understood by our learners, and where incidents occur, they are immediately investigated by school governing bodies. It is, of course, disappointing that when there are incidences, a difficult situation is often made even more difficult when external groups start to threaten schools and learners. But I want to reiterate that we will not tolerate racism in our schools, and where allegations are made, they will be investigated. Let us all remind ourselves of the founding principles contained in the preamble of our Constitution, which require all of us to recognize the injustices of our past, honor those who suffered for justice and freedom in our land, respect those who have worked to build and develop our country, and believe that South Africa belongs to all who live in it, united in our diversity. And most importantly, to heal the divisions of the past and establish a society based on democratic values, social justice, and fundamental rights.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. I recognise the Honourable Kasim.
Thank you, Speaker.
Honourable Kasim.
Speaker, it is sad to witness racist elements. There's an echo coming from the platform. I'm not sure if it's your side or my side.
I'll ask the table staff. We can't hear any echo in the chamber. Order
It
members.
is sad to witness racist elements embedding themselves and becoming entrenched in our schooling system as if they form part of the syllabus. What is more painful, Speaker, is the inability of those empowered to show willingness to deal with the scourge of racism in schools. Because these racist elements now come from both learners and teachers alike, and the situation is just out of control. Speaker, schools are supposed to be places of learning and development where learners need to be taught about the negative social ills associated with racism from an early age. And parents also have to play their role in the upbringing of children by instilling good moral values, which best defines our constitution democracy. Speaker, before I ask my question to the minister, I just want to note, a few years ago in 2020, a Miss South African contestant, Bianca Shumbi, had to withdraw from the pageant following an uproar over her use of unethical, racist and offensive words back in 2013 on social media, which used the N-word specifically. Now, Bianca at the time was 14 years old and knew very well what was wrong from right. Now, the story of Bianca shows how racist utterance can later affect your future prospects in life, and that one cannot hide forever behind a youthful age for their deeds, as there is no child born a racist, as racism is a social construct which individuals rather learn and voluntarily adopt as they grow. Speaker, being racist can never be classified as being a mistake or an incident. It is voluntary and intentional. So there's a lot that our schooling system and society at large can do to change that. But at the moment, I don't think we are doing enough, especially in our schools. So my question to the minister is whether all schools in the province have a code of conduct that speaks against racism, and whether this code is uniform across all public schools in the province when dealing with the racist incidents in schools. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable Kasim. I now recognise the Honourable Van Wyk.
Thank you, Speaker. I thank the Minister for his response and for the seriousness with which he and his department have addressed these issues. It goes without saying that racism can never be tolerated, and that the onus is on all of us to work together to ensure that the legacies of the past are defined and dealt with. But at the same time, it is vital that proper procedure and cool heads prevail when dealing with what are undoubtedly emotive and highly sensitive issues. We have a duty to educate the perpetrators of these despicable actions, but this must be balanced with the need to protect victims. With this in mind, I would like to ask the Minister to explain the avenues to deal with incidents such as these above the school level. We always advise children to tell their teacher or their principal when an incident has occurred. But what should children or teachers do if they do not feel that an incident has been addressed by their school? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable van Wyk. I recognise the Honourable Christians.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, we know that schools must be safe spaces. The Institute for Justice and Reconciliation released an article saying that every other month we wake up with the news of yet another racial incident in our schools in South Africa. So it's a nationwide problem, not a Western Cape alone. But what I want to ask the minister is that is there safe spaces where these learners can dialogue and have critical conversations? You know, you have it in the curriculum, but is there safe spaces? And also, when there is a racial incident, there's a big hype in the media. But when the perpetrator is caught or there's action, you see nothing in the headlines. So it looks like nothing has been done. So is your department doing something when a perpetrator is brought to book or something happens that it gets the same media coverage, because the media runs with, you know, racial activities at school? And we know about the two that was recently made. But I'm asking the minister, you must make a concerted effort when action is taken that the media also broadcast that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honourable Christians. I recognise the Honourable Syed.
Honourable Speaker, thank you very much, and allow me to also thank the member for raising this particular interpellation, which speaks very much so to the kind of Western Cape that we should all be striving for, an inclusive Western Cape. The recent racist bullying incident at the Pinelands High School, where African learners were confined in a cage and auctioned off by coloured learners, is profoundly abhorrent and must be denounced with the utmost severity that it deserves. This highlights a larger, deeply troubling pattern of school racism that the Western Cape Education Department and this provincial government has consistently failed to address with the seriousness that it demands. Instances of racism in schools, including racist bullying and discriminatory behavior by educators and staff, have frequently gone unpunished across the Western Cape, despite all the processes and programs the MEC speaks about. The lack of decisive action by the WCED's political leadership is directly contributing to the current rise in these heinous acts. Moreover, we must hold this provincial government accountable for their inaction regarding Herzliya High School, which has been complicit in promoting racism and supporting the Israeli Defense Force, a racist, genocidal apartheid defense force. Learners from the Western Cape, under the watch of this MEC and the DA-led administration, have been encouraged to join the killing machine of the murderous state of Israel, and no action was taken against this particular school. How can we expect a DA-led provincial government to decisively tackle racism when they allow a school to go untouched for supporting a racist, murderous state? It is inconceivable.
Your time has expired. Please conclude.
It is inconceivable how the authorities can claim to address racism in schools while allowing institutions like Herzliya to continue the endorsement of a race.
Honourable Syed, your time has expired. Order members. Thank you very much. I recognise the Honourable Kasim.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you to the Honourable Sayed for mentioning the Herzliya issue as well. But, Speaker, in the month of July 2024 alone, there were 2 reported incidents of racism in the province, one at Tableview High and then the other at Pinelands High as well. So these incidents gives us a sense that either there is no code of conduct in the schools classifying racism as an offence, or the perpetrators just do not know the code of conduct exists. However, I still hold the view that educating one about the negative effects of racism and prioritizing it in schools is better than it being too late and reaching a point of punishment, as there's nothing greater than a change positive behavior in a student. Speaker, it is the so-called Model C schools, now Quintile 4 and Quintile 5 schools, where you get a situation where the school use rogue mechanisms to dodge the code of conduct in order to protect the racist learners. So a few years ago in 2021, there was a complaint that a white matric student from Camps Bay High School had used the K word against two learners from lower grades. One was an African and one was an Indian student. These two learners in question reported the matter to Mr. Louis, Mr. Mos, to the principal, was either the deputy principal or the principal at the time. But the deputy, but Speaker, the disciplinary process dragged for months, and the perpetrator was only taken for the disciplinary hearing later that year, when she was about to write the final matric exams, with the rumors circulating that by the time the sanctions is passed, the perpetrator must have completed a matric so that the sanctions can remain debatable. So, Speaker, these are some of the situations unfolding in these schools, with the chief aim being to protect and to aid the perpetrators of racism. Having said that, as the South African Human Rights Commission was aware and investigated both the racist incidents at Tableview High School and at Pinelands High, does the department have any initiatives or joint programs or collaborations with the Commission aimed at addressing racism in schools and in enriching the development of school codes of conduct around the province? Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable Kasim. I now recognise the Minister of Education, Minister Mania.
Thank you, Speaker. I'd like to start by complimenting the Honourable Aisha Kasim for taking a firm position against racism. In stark contrast, of course, to the leader of her party, Julius Malema, who has probably done more than any other person to fan the flames of racism, of xenophobia, of division, and of hate in our country. I'd like to assure the Honourable Kasim that schools have been asked to review their codes of conduct with school governing bodies to ensure that all potentially discriminatory aspects are removed. And they must ensure, of course, that the code of conduct is enforced at all times, particularly when it comes to allegations of racism. To the Honourable Van Wyk, when learners or teachers feel that an incident perhaps has not been adequately addressed, we would encourage those learners and teachers to report the incident to the department. And we will, of course, ensure that the matter is dealt with decisively. Of course, learners always have the opportunity to contact the Safe Schools hotline on 0800 45 46 47 to report any such incidents. I have to say I disagree with the Honourable Khalid Sahed. The department, as I've said, takes these matters extremely seriously. And I've said that we will not tolerate racism in our schools, and where allegations are made, they will be investigated, and indeed they are investigated. And the matter to which he refers has certainly been investigated and action has been taken. Perhaps in closing, Speaker, I would like to pause and perhaps to paraphrase the words of Robert F. Kennedy after the death of Martin Luther King. I think what we need in South Africa is not division. What we need in South Africa is not hatred. What we need in South Africa is not violence or lawlessness, but love and wisdom and compassion towards one another, and a feeling of justice towards those who still suffer in our country. So let us all in this house dedicate ourselves and commit ourselves, as the preamble of the Constitution requires us to do, to work together to heal the divisions of the past and establish a society based on democratic values, social justice, and fundamental human rights. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. Honourable members, just for the record, interpellation 2 and 3 has been withdrawn, and that brings us to the end of interpellations. Honourable members, we will now deal with questions on the question paper. I wish to advise honourable members that once the Honourable Minister has started to reply to the oral question as printed on the question paper, honourable members must use the chat facility for the sitting of the House to indicate that they would to ask a follow-up question for those members that is joining us on the hybrid platform. Alternatively, an indication for those members in the chamber. Honourable members, I wish to remind you that there are 4 opportunities for follow-up questions, but the honourable member who has posed the initial oral question as printed on the question paper will have the first opportunity for a follow-up question. Thereafter, the honourable members may then use the remaining opportunities to ask the follow-up questions. Honourable members, just for your noting, we will first deal with question that stood over from Thursday, the 22nd of August 2024, as agreed by the House. Question number 3 has been withdrawn. I therefore move on to question number 5 as printed on the question paper, and I recognise the Honourable Minister of Police Oversight and Community Safety, Honourable Minister Marais.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Member Jacobs, for the question. The LEAP law enforcement officers have been working on the ground with all other partners in order to make our communities safer for all our people. The officers enforce bylaws and assist enforcement agencies with crime prevention, which will include stop and searches and house searches in conjunction with the South African Police Service. The operational concept includes a visible enforcement presence, relationship building with residents, businesses and key community structures, information gathering on crime patterns and key areas of concern, as well as working with other enforcement agencies. LEAP officers are specifically deployed in areas where the murder rate is highest. This includes the following areas: Delft, Guguletu, Harare, Kailicha, it's a Site B policing precinct, Kraaifontein, Mufuleni, Mitchells Plain, Nyanga, Philippi East, and Samora Machel. Other high crime areas in which they are deployed are Atlantis, Bishop Lavis, and Hanover Park, along with Lavender Hill, Steenberg, and Grassy Park. The operational deployments are based on evidence and data. This approach is also used as part of monitoring and evaluation to determine the effectiveness of LEAP and inform a cycle of continuous improvement. The department, working together with the City of Cape Town and the South African Police Service, will continue to prioritize the implementation of LEAP with joint operations between SAPS and the City of Cape Town in exercising their duties and responding to all forms of violence in the priority areas. We are in a process of revising our LEAP strategy in our attempt to improve the impact LEAP makes in reducing deaths. And remember, the operational deployments are based on evidence and data. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. I recognise Honourable Jacobs. Honourable Jacobs.
Thank you, Speaker. Thank you, Speaker. Am I audible?
You are indeed audible.
Okay. So, yeah, just a follow-up question is, why wasn't the full 3,000 LEAP officers appointed as per the previous initial announcement? And how many of them are still now in the communities?
Honourable Jacobs, the Minister was not able to hear you. Can you pose your question again?
Okay, am I now audible?
You are audible.
Okay, so my question is, why wasn't the full 3,000 LEAP officers appointed as per the previous initial announcement? And how many of them are now still within the communities?
Honourable Minister, before you respond, honourable members, you are allowed one follow-up question. There was 2 questions in that sentence, so I'm going to allow the Minister to respond to the first part of that question.
Member Jacobs, I think you have the wrong information. All the LEAP officers were deployed.
Thank you very much, honourable members. Just for the House to note, I got an indication from Honourable Walters, Honourable Masipa, and Honourable Lecker, and that's the end of the 4 opportunities. Honourable Walters.
Minister, what lessons have been learned from the LEAP program, and how can these lessons be applied to general policing in the Western Cape in the future, particularly with the memorandum of understanding that was signed last week? I would like to hear some thoughts, what strategically you think can happen and what we can use from the LEAP program in that regard. Thanks.
Thank you very much, honourable members. I wish to remind the House, honourable members, I'm on the floor. I wish to remind members that your follow-up questions need to link to the original question. Honourable Minister, as always, I'm not going to dictate to you how you respond, but you are more than welcome to respond. But I'm reminding members that your follow-up questions need to relate to the initial question being posed. Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Member Walters, for the question. It is difficult for LEAP to have the desired impact without access to live data. That's one of the things that we've learned. The recently signed MOU between the National Minister of Police, the province, and the City of Cape Town provides for the sharing of data which will significantly help LEAP to proactively deal with the high levels of gang violence and reduce the murder rate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. I recognise Honourable Masipa.
Thank you, Speaker. Honourable Minister, according to the sub-annual performance plan 2022-2023, the actual human resource gap was 11,250 members in the Western Cape. So the question really relates to the question that was posed by Honourable Jacobs to say, based obviously, on the MOU signed, could you see an opportunity to amend some of the workings of the LEAP officers, to tackle crime easier as such, in order to fill this particular gap that I have just read from the report on News 24? Thank you, Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Member. I must say that interesting is that LEAP must be doubled up. If you have 50 LEAP officers deployed, say for instance in Kailicha, then SAPS must have 50 from their side. Now what's happening? There's 50 LEAP officers. I'm just taking an amount. Then there's only 2 SAPS officers. So LEAP isn't the SAPS officer. So that was the initial understanding. So we will use this MOU, and we're already in discussions with Minister to have our reasonable allocation of police officers to the Western Cape. And we will also have the criminal intelligence, devolution of power in criminal intelligence to empower us more to combat the murder in our province. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. Before I recognize you, Honourable Lecker, I just want to, I see there's a hand from Honourable Jacobs. Honourable Jacobs, is that a point of order?
No, it's fine. I'll pass this one.
No problem, Honourable Jacobs. I recognise the Honourable Lecker.
Ndiyabulela Somlomo. Honourable Minister, the PNP reports for various districts identified challenges as lack of accessibility in informal settlement, insufficient lighting in crime hotspot, and lack of CCTVs. How does the safety plan then addresses these challenges in partnership with municipalities?
Honourable member, that's a brand new question. But I'm like previously, I'm going to say, Minister, that is a new question. If you so wish, you are then you can respond. But I recognise you.
Thank you, Speaker. Thank you for the question. Member Lekker, I will answer your question if you give it to me in writing, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, honourable members. That brings us to the end of question number 5. I move on to question number 6. Honourable members, I recognise the Honourable Minister of Police Oversight and Community Safety, Honourable Minister Marais.
Thank you, Member Christians, for this question. It's quite a lengthy answer. The reply of the Cape Town Police Department about the sum of successes based on deployments within the shot spotter areas, and this includes the statistics, includes a combination of ammunition, cartridges, firearms, imitation included, and arrests. So the sum of successes based on deployment within the shot spotter areas is 2,307, and the sum of successes linked to response to detections is 1,255. And then the successes based on deployment, I'm not doing Hanover Park, Lammerdeal, Manenberg, and Yanga as total. For ammunition recovered, 1,927. Arrest made, 198. Firearms recovered, 120. Imitation firearm recoveries, 50. And cartridges recovered was 12. And then successes based on response to detection. I'm also going to take Hanover Park, Lammerdeal, Manenberg, and Nyanga as 1. Cartridges found on scene, 487. Injuries reported at detection, 278. Ammunition found on scene, 233. Fatalities reported at detection, 130. Arrest made, 81. Firearms recovered, 36. Imitation firearms recovered, 10. And then case status on successes in shot spotter areas, in court, 78. Withdrawn, including provincially, 65. Provisionally. The null prosecute, 42. Awaiting feedback, 10. Filed was 7. Abandoned, 6. A warrant of arrest issued, 5. Closed and filed, 5. No CAS number, 1. And remanded, 1. So the grand total was 220. Now, whether or not ShotSpotter can reduce gang violence is open for debate. As with cameras, it is technology assisting policing. Actions are still up to the policing agencies. And is it successful? Most definitely. It is clear from the above statistics, however, it has added value that it provides situational awareness of firearm violence and the proliferation of firearms in a specific area that we would never have had without. The technology has directly and indirectly assisted in a number of arrests and firearms being taken out of circulation. And I can also say that ShotSpotter data can be used to assist with a data-driven approach to police gang hotspots, which are normally associated with a high prevalence of firearm-related crimes. The situational awareness it provides makes it possible for law enforcement agencies to devise strategies for a calculated and appropriate response. ShotSpotter is therefore an important tool in a fight against gang violence. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister, Honourable Christians, Honourable members. As I indicated before, I recognise you, Honourable Christians. As I indicated before the start of oral questions, once the Minister has started replying, you must give me an indication of any follow-ups. I've said it in the beginning, and for that reason, the order who indicated to me is Honourable Christians, Honourable Walters, Honourable Masipa, and Honourable Bryant, in that order. Honourable Christians, you may continue.
Thank you, Minister, for the comprehensive answer. Minister, when you read the Daily Maverick on the 14th of July, says 52 people shot dead. And now with the murder rate, the crime stats out, murder rate up 21.2%, attempted murder 51.6% up. And that's why the question is linked to this, that it seems that we're losing. I agree with the stats, but it's like we're not making a dent in retrieving these firearms, because we've been to the presentation of the shot spotter, and they can detect where it comes from. But it seems that the guns is endless. So are we winning? There's a good success that you're saying, but it seems like lives is being lost. More people are being killed than ever before. And that's why the murder rate and the attempted murder rate is very, very concerning. So it seems to me we're not making a dent. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Christians. Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Christians. I know it's daunting and it seems that we don't make a dent. But I must tell you, I've been in Delft last night and we do retrieve firearms. But it's still an ongoing fight, and I can promise you we do our best to fight this firearms. We also ask that that we have a firearms destruction unit in Cape Town. It's also in discussion with the National Minister. So I can give feedback after almost in October, I can give feedback about that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. I recognise Honourable Walters.
Chairperson, in addition to shot spotter, and there were stats in the answer were given, but in addition to shot spotter, what other technologies does the Minister's Department employ to fight crime, and how could these technologies augment policing if applied more broadly? Thanks.
Thank you very much, Honourable Walters. And Minister, before you respond, I wish to remind members again that you can pose one follow-up question. There was 2 questions in that to the Minister. Minister, you can respond to the first part of that question.
Thank you, Speaker. Honourable Member Walters, ShotSpotter actually is a tool of the city, not of our department, and other technological support systems that we use, including tracking of all LEAP officer vehicles, body cams on LEAP officers, and the new Neighbourhood Watch app, which has been rolled out to 50 neighbourhood watches so far as a pilot. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. I recognise Honourable Masipa.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. And Minister, thank you for the data that you've just provided. I think to manage anything properly, you need data. And I do understand that you are obviously hamstrung in terms of the powers that you have in terms of managing this scorching crime. Do you feel that maybe, if you would have been given much more powers to deal with these issues, the issues of really that you just addressed will be really taken care of much easier in terms of strategies that you have got in place? Thank you, Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Masipa. And Honourable Minister, before you answer, I wish to remind the members that you cannot pose a question and solicit an opinion from a minister. But Minister, once again, I'm going to allow you to respond if you so wish.
Well, thank you, Speaker. What I want to say is that we are looking at changing, if I can say, rewriting the Safety Act of the province, and we will also look at our safety plan. It's a working document. So we will work with our standing committee on this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. Honourable Boyson, I saw a hand. Is that a point of order? Honourable Boyson, please rise.
No, Mr. Speaker, it's a follow-up question.
The follow-up questions have already been allocated, so unfortunately you cannot ask any follow-up questions.
Can I put it in writing, Mr. Speaker?
You are more than welcome to use all parliamentary mechanisms available to you. Order, members.
Thank you.
I recognize the Honourable Bryant.
Thank you, Speaker. And Speaker, it was great to hear of all of the successes of the ShotSpotter program from Minister Marais earlier. And I think it just shows the incredible steps that have been taken by our DA governments, like the City of Cape Town and like the Western Cape government with the LEAP program, and the broad support that we've got from the House for the ShotSpotter successes. But Minister, the question that I've got for you, and you know, it's a question that I think speaks to the heart of our current challenges across South Africa, and that is what more can be done by other spheres of government, such as national government, which controls the SAPs, to really come to the table and assist the hard-working local governments under the DA and the provincial government who are doing their part and certainly playing a significant role. What more can be done from national government to assist? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Bryant. Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Bryant. I think with the MOU, we will be better off in the Western Cape and with the oversight role. The oversight role is, as you know, very important. You can hold the PC as well as the SAPS members accountable for the help that they must do or can do for us. And then, you know what, the devolution of powers is not off the table. Even though we have a very good relationship with our national minister, we also had that discussion. So we have a MINMEC on the 25th of September. And as I've said, I will give feedback of what happened there almost in October. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. Order, members. That brings us to the end of question number 6 on the question paper. We now move on to question number 7. I wish to remind members again that there's 4 follow-up questions. You can give me an indication once the Minister has started speaking, Honourable Lacker. But also, Honourable members, may I please ask for your indulgence to please pose the question. You do not need to motivate your question. Please just ask the follow-up question. I recognize the Honourable Minister, Minister Marais.
Thank you, Honourable Christians, for this question. The session Employment, Health and Wellness is rendering trauma debriefing on daily basis for all reported incidents. Trauma management sessions are also rendered as part of ongoing support as members react and respond differently to shock and traumatic incidents. The multiple stressor debriefing program is provided to high-risk units once a quarter. Trauma is dealt with in different stages. Initial debriefing is done immediately when members return from a scene and are observed on how they react to that exposure, like gruesome scene, GBV, police attacks, shooting incidents. Trauma debriefing is done within 72 hours after the exposure. This allows the individual to undergo all emotional and mental phases that triggers any negative emotions. This assists during the actual debriefing as the individual is mentally taken back to the scene and all emotions are identified. The debriefing of SAPS personnel is regulated by National Instruction 18 of 1998. And what I also want to say is that our Department of Social Development is helping us a lot in debriefing, especially on scene and off scene. And then you ask how many officers have died by their own hand in a year to date. From January 2024 to August 2024, 4 officers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable members. Just for noting, the order will be as follows: Honourable Christians, Honourable Lacker, Honourable Bosman, and Honourable van Minnen. Honourable Christians.
Thank you, Minister, for that question. Minister, you know, the Western Cape is already under-resourced when it comes to police resources. But I think, you know, the anti-gang unit is under severe pressure And now 4 is not a lot, but 4 on an under-resourced province is a lot. So, and what saddens people is that he took his own life. So I heard what you said, and I know it's a national competency and directive, but surely this must be picked up sooner. You know, for a person to commit suicide, it's not an instant thing. It's a thing after time, trauma. So Minister, you know, I know you gave the answer, but I would truly say, you know, when somebody takes his life in the anti-crime unit, it's a major problem. So is your department, you know, engaging with SAPS to say, listen, how do we improve that? And in this case, did you engage SAPS to see how can we prevent another suicide? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Christians. Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Member Christians. Yes, we did engage with them. Wat moeilik is dat veral in die polisiemag sê mense nie sommer dat hulle nie lekker voel nie of dat hulle depressief voel. Want hulle voel dan weet mense sien op hulle neer, hulle kan dit nie hanteer nie. So dit maak dit baie moeilik. En nou wil ek juist ook sê, van ons maatskaplike werkers se lading is geweldig hoog. En soms tel mens nie dit somme op nie, tensy jy iemand regtig verwys en as jy bewus raak daarvan. En daarom moet werkers moet dan ook sê, weet, aanmoedig om te gaan of bel en sê, weet, kan ons help. En ek wil weer eens vir die Departement vir Maatskaplike Ontwikkeling baie dankie sê. Weet, hulle is regtig net 'n oproep ver en dat daai maatskaplike werkers doen geweldig baie om hierdie so 'n situasie te voorkom. Dankie.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. I recognize Honourable Lekker. Honourable Lekker, you covered? All right, in that case, Honourable Bosman, Honourable Van Minnen, and Honourable Walters, he indicated, and he was the fifth hand that I saw.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, through you to the Minister. Minister, are you able to perhaps expand on whether support is also provided to members of neighbourhood watches and CPFs who are also sometimes first responders to gruesome crime scenes, who also have to deal with the trauma of those crime scenes, and whether your department has made support available through the funding and also the operational support that you give to neighbourhood watches?
Honourable members, and before you continue, Honourable Minister, again I wish to remind you that the question needs to be relayed to the original question being posed, and you can ask one follow-up question. Honourable Minister, I'm not going to dictate how you respond to that, but I recognise you.
Thank you, Honourable Chief Whip. Now I'm just going to respond, say yes, we do have help for the neighbourhood watches, and we look after them as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. I recognise Honourable Van Minnen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's common knowledge throughout the world that police personnel do tend, because of their occupations, to suffer from a higher rate of suicide than many, many other jobs. It's also common cause that, unfortunately, police personnel, because of the stress, and I think very much in this province, because of the enormous pressure of having so few members, also suffer from high substance abuse issues. I would just like to please ask the Honourable Minister if there are in fact programs that deal specifically with the substance abuse that could be an early indicator of problems. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Van Minnen. Honourable Minister, you may continue.
Thank you, Honourable Van Minnen, for the question. Yes, there are. I don't have the detail, and I can provide the detail for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. I recognise Honourable Walters.
Minister, the same question. I have the same question that Member Bosman asked, but it extends. What I was interested in is whether the support services and the kind of support that should be provided for the police, whether that also extends, that kind of counselling extends to the families of affected police officers. It's an incredibly sensitive topic, but I believe it's the environment that we are trying to create to both prevent and to also deal with the consequences of something so terrible as suicide, I believe should be looked at. So my question is the support also extended to family members of affected police officers?
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. Honourable Minister.
Speaker, thank you, Honourable Walters. Yes, it is extended to the families. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Members. Honourable Members, that concludes questions for oral reply that stood over from the 22nd of August 2024. We now move on to new questions as printed on the question paper, and I recognise the Honourable Minister of Police Oversight and Community Safety, Minister Maree.
Thank you, Honourable Kassim, for this very important question. I'm going to give you the reply of the South African Police Service. The SAPS does not have the functionality on its corporate system to monitor or record the requested information. But as I've said, thank you for an important question, to which I received a disappointing reply from the South African Police Service, namely that they do not keep those statistics. I would agree with you if you felt strongly that such statistics are important in order to measure the effectiveness of our police service, and I will negotiate with them to try and ensure that such statistics are kept in future. What we are requesting neighbourhood watchers to do is to forward the addresses of alleged drug houses to my department so that these addresses can be forwarded to the police for the purpose of raiding those premises. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. Honourable Members, just for noting, the first follow-up will be Honourable Kassim, followed by Honourable Bosman, followed by Honourable Masipa, and followed by Honourable Walters, in that order. Honourable Kassim, I recognise you.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Speaker, as the question of how many drug houses has been shut has not been responded to for the fourth time since last year and in the previous term as well, let me then ask, does the Minister know or does she have any information, whether it be from SAPS or from her department, as to how many people or if there were any people arrested in association with those drug houses and whether any of them was later convicted and sentenced, if you at least have that information? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. Before you respond, I wish to remind Honourable Members again that the follow-up question must relate to the original question posed. Honourable Minister, I'm not going to dictate how you respond to that, but just for the record, that is a new question.
Thank you. I know that's a new question. Honourable Kassim, if you can put that in writing for me as well. But at this moment, we don't have any information about any arrests. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. I recognise Honourable Bosman.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. And Honourable Speaker, through you, I'd like to ask the Minister whether the department plans to use this newfound spirit of cooperation between the National Ministry of Police through the Memorandum of Understanding on Cooperation in the Western Cape to perhaps get these statistics, get the South African Police Service to record these statistics of drug houses, and also look at how the department supports SAPS in maintaining those statistics.
Honourable Members, I'm going to remind you once again that you must please ask a follow-up question related to the original question being posed, and you can ask one follow-up question. Honourable Members, you do not need to motivate your follow-up question. Can I please ask that you adhere to the rules and pose your follow-up question in the interest of the section of the parliamentary process that is allocated for questions for oral reply. Honourable Minister, I recognise you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Honourable Chief Whip, for the question. Yes, the MOU provide that we can have that discussion and to have more information more regularly in connection with any event about the police and what happens there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. I recognise Honourable Masipa.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you, Honourable Minister. Drugs, Honorable Speaker, are destroying our children and our community. And I think it's an important area that we look at. So the question to the Minister is, are there mechanisms of reporting this drugs houses in the Western Cape? And if they are not within your spheres, are there some collaborations that are happening to just ensure that, you know, these drug houses are reported? Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Member, for that question. Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Masipa, for the question. As I said, we are requesting the neighbourhood watchers to identify some of these drug houses and the community. And we say, you know, that we won't disclose them if they bring that information to us. And that is the moment what we're doing. And also I know that the city is very aware of dilapidated buildings, of problem buildings, and they have a list of them, and they look into each and every one of them, see if it's drug houses and what's happening there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. I recognise Honourable Walters.
Speaker, if I'm giving too much of a preface to my question, please just call me to order, but I do believe a bit of explanation is required. One of the concerns that we certainly had in our discussions in the committee was that there perhaps is an overemphasis on urban areas when police matters or policing matters and community safety matters are being discussed. Do you have statistics? Because I believe drug houses are not just an urban phenomenon. It's part of the distribution network that you also find in rural areas. And do you have statistics or can you give us an idea of whether the same approach of gathering information also, is there a similar emphasis on rural areas being placed? And can you perhaps, if there's something specific that's distinguished from the urban areas, is it possible to highlight that in your answer as well?
Thank you very much, Honourable Walters. Before you answer, Minister, I see the hand of Honourable Boyson. Is that a point of order? And what is your point of order?
My point of order, Mr. Speaker, is that as a newcomer, if I don't understand, can I get clarity?
You can absolutely get clarity if it's in the rules. So what do you need clarity on?
I need clarity, Mr. Speaker, on the shutdown of drug houses. What happens to...
Honourable Boyson, that is not a point of order. That is not clarity. That is in fact a question to the Minister, because you want a response from the Minister. There is 4 opportunities as outlined in the rules, and those 4 opportunities have already been allocated to honourable members. So I'm unfortunately not going to allow you an opportunity to pose a question to the Minister.
I'll put it in writing, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. You may do so. Honourable Minister, before you respond, I wish to remind members once again that you are allowed 1 follow-up question to the Minister. And in that case, in the last question posed to you, Minister, there was more than 1 question. There was a limit, there was an opinion sought during that submission of that question. As normally, I'm not going to indicate to you how you respond, but can I please ask honourable members to please work with me within the confines of the rules. Honourable Minister, I recognise you.
Thank you again, Speaker, and thank you, Member Walters. I don't have the detail, unfortunately. I know we have K9 units, but we not, you know, our dog unit is also very stressed out, if I can put it that way. So there's not always dogs specifically for drugs. So I would like to ask you that you put it in a question in writing for me to answer next time. Then I will give you the detail. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. Honourable members, that concludes question number 1 as printed on the question paper for oral reply. We now move on to question number 2, and I recognise the Honourable Minister of Infrastructure, Minister Simmers.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker, and thank you to the Honourable Member Kasim for, I think, a very insightful question, because in human settlements, context to the answer I give is very important, because history plays a massive part in a lot of the matters which the Honourable Member, through you, Speaker, and the members of the opposition actually bring to the House. So it is within that, Honourable Speaker, that I will respond to the A part and the B part thoroughly to ensure that all members of the House are quite clear pertaining to the specific member's question, because I know that there are other examples which I have been receiving, Honourable Speaker, through you, almost similar to the Honourable Member's questions. Honourable Speaker, what's very important for me in terms of the period within which the member poses a question to, it relates to the period of 2010. But we need to understand that in human settlements, by the time a project is implementation ready, it actually started 3 or 4 years earlier. Now, as you are aware, before the Democratic Alliance took over governance in 2009, there was one specific party which governed this province from 1994 until 2009. So the period of the projects which the Honourable Member refers to actually emanates from a period where within this province we saw a program which was spearheaded and which was communicated effectively by the ANC to a number of communities called the People's Housing Project. Now this is and was a very, very noble project, Honourable Speaker. It sought to address the possible beneficiaries' human dignity by affording them the chance to actually build their own house. Again, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And as much as the program has very noble or had very noble outcomes or envisioned outcomes, Honourable Speaker, what we saw from 1994 until 2009 in our province was the antithesis of what the African National Congress ultimately allowed to happen to the specific program. Until today, it affects so many poor communities across our province. Because people thought they could take their destiny into their own hands, Honourable Speaker, they bought into the People's Housing Project, or the PHP program, Honourable Speaker. But yet many of those houses are still incomplete. Yet those people they entrusted actually got the money in advance. And now I will go to the A part of the Honourable Member. Firstly, Honourable Member Kasim, the specific beneficiary which you are referring to was one of those people who actually thought they could take destiny into their own hands, who bought into the Masi Patisane People's Housing Project, a project which, again, for the period under review, was implemented by the City of Cape Town, again, from 1994 to around about 2006. We all know which party governed the City of Cape Town. No surprises then that the City of Cape Town also were advocating for the People's Housing Program in their own jurisdiction. And at that stage also the former Department of Housing, as it was called. Again, Honourable Speaker, history and the context thereof is very, very important. But it's also important through you, Honourable Speaker, for the member to note that the contractor who started to build this house actually was appointed through a community organisation under the PHP program, which means the department and the City of Cape Town and the leadership of both province and the local government authority at that stage entrusted that the community organisation would be acting in the interest of the very same community who sought to benefit through the PHP program. Honourable Speaker, again, this is just the A part of the question. As a result of poor performance of that specific contractor, and we saw many of them across this province, so this story is not just unique to this specific beneficiary. A number of houses in the Masi Patisane People's Housing Project actually were never complete. But yet, the contractor got the full subsidy quantum to build these houses. Hence, in 2009, a new government came to be. The voters made a clear choice. A very right choice, I must say, in 2009 as well, Honourable Speaker, because the first thing we did in 2009 when we came into government, being well aware of thousands of complaints and thousands of files which emanated from the old Department of Housing, was to actually, initiate forensic investigations in 2009. The then Cabinet decided that due to the massive risk which the PHP program actually posed for this provincial government, a new provincial government, and the then dear-governed City of Cape Town and a number of other municipalities, was to actually not actively encourage the PHP housing program in the Western Cape, in the municipalities, given that the number of cases of fraud and corruption, which was handed over in 2009 and 2010 by the Cabinet and the then former Minister now of Human Settlements, as it was later to be called, was thousands of cases, and thousands of cases was investigated. But to come back to the 2010 matter, as the Honourable Member Kasim alludes to, again, this is the A part, Honourable Speaker. The City of Cape Town and the Provincial Department then agreed that the City of Cape Town will then take over the completion of the Masipatisane project, noting that forensic investigations were happening. We did not, as a province and a DA-led City of Cape Town, encourage PHP projects. But the city then took over to ensure that the houses could actually be completed, but also that the quality speaks to the hopes that the people had who actually wanted to be and actively participate through the PHP process and program to build a house which they so long waited for. But sadly, due to shoddy workmanship and cadre deployment and all other various aspects of what influenced the quality in some of these projects, it would actually sadly play a massive impact in the quality which ultimately got. So, in terms of the A part, Honourable Speaker, and through you to the Honourable Kasim, all future project progress updates, again, remember, we stopped the PHP. We stopped encouraging it in the Western Cape. We consulted our local governments not to actively participate and encourage the PHP process, given the number and thousands of SIU investigations that were already ongoing across our province, not just in the City of Cape Town. So when we closed that chapter and the City of Cape Town agreed to take over actually this specific project called the Masipatisane People's Housing Project, I would advise, therefore, the Honourable Member, through you, Speaker, while they still have EFF members in the City of Cape Town's Council, to actually ask them to pose this question at the next council or whenever they feel like it, City of Cape Town's council meeting, because they are effectively the implementing government entity dealing with the Masipatisane People's Housing Project. But Honourable Speaker, then the Honourable Member now asked me about the B part of the question. I would love to read it to her. When will his department hand over the keys, as it was due since November 2021, to a certain person whose name has been furnished to his department for the purpose of his reply? Again, I thank the member for the B part as well, Honourable Speaker. A, this specific beneficiary was approved under the City of Cape Town run project called The Hague in Delft. So that's the first important information which the member is now well aware of, that the specific beneficiary is to benefit from The Hague in Delft. This beneficiary is also not unique. This beneficiary is part of 216 beneficiaries that have been approved by the City of Cape Town for a housing opportunity, and this beneficiary will be allocated a house in this project. The City of Cape Town has indicated that they actually still need to complete the serviced sites before they can start construction of the top structures. But, Honourable Speaker, in human settlements, context is very important in my response. We are all well aware, or we ought to be well aware, that The Hague project in Delft is one of a number of human settlements projects within the City of Cape Town's jurisdiction, which faces many criminal-related challenges. The Hague in Delft, this project is not exempt from this, sadly, which we have sadly now had to observe the contractor actually abandoning the site. The contractor had their life was put in danger, workers were confronted, extortion attempts were, and there's only so much that one company could do. They walked, they abandoned the site. The City of Cape Town, again, has now needed to start from the start again by procuring a new contractor who they hope will be able to complete the outstanding services to the sites before they can actually start building top structures for this specific project. Honourable Speaker, through you to the member, this will mean, had it not been for criminal-related challenges, the sites would have been serviced, and this specific beneficiary would have been informed of when construction of their specific unit as part of the 216 would have been built at the Hague in Delft. And we do hope, and I use the word hope not lightly here, Honourable Speaker, that the top structures, even that the start of the top structures will only be in 2025, 2026. Again, permitting that crime-related challenges does not reoccur on that site. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. Honourable members, just for noting, I got Honourable Kasim for the first follow-up question, then Honourable Bosman, then Honourable Lekker, and then Honourable Masipa, in that order. Honourable Kasim.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Speaker, with the Minister's response, I'd like to ask, does the Minister have a timeline or does he have an idea as to when these houses will be completed and the others handed over as well? And then also, can that information be handed over in writing or via email, if possible, please?
Thank you very much, Honourable Kasim. Honourable Minister, before I recognize you, I see a hand on the virtual platform. Honourable Marais, is that a point of order?
Honourable Speaker, it seems that I've missed out on an opportunity again to ask a question, so I will lower my hand. Apologies.
Thank you very much, Honourable Marais. Unfortunately, yes, you missed out on that opportunity. Honourable Minister, I recognize you. Honourable Minister, yes, you may.
Sorry, Chair, there was another question coming. Chairperson or Speaker, again, context in human settlements is very important. And I listened to what the member's question is. She's asking about a specific timeline. And she asked if I can put it in writing, but I will also respond to this House because she posed the question in the House. Again, Honourable Member, I need to reiterate that the process of procuring a new contractor, the City of Cape Town is actually busy with that now. So I can't deliver comment on where they are in their supply chain process. That, sadly, you need to ask through your councillors that you still have left in the City of Cape Town in council to actually ask that through the human settlements portfolio or the finance portfolio. Because there were criminal-related challenges, the servicing of sites for the 216 is still not complete. Again, member, in a perfect project management world, it was supposed to have been finished by now. Hulle is nie klaar nie. Which means once the new contractor, whenever in this future timeline that might occur, Honourable Speaker, is appointed, the first call of duty of whoever is appointed as the contractor by the City of Cape Town will need to complete the outstanding services. And here I will provide the member in writing, as she rightfully asks, the number of sites that still needs to be serviced, which I believe will also give the member a clear timeline actually of when the servicing of sites is complete, which is the first step in the implementation of human settlements. And only then top structures will be able to ask. Again, Honourable Speaker, in a perfect world where the community plays their part, where there's no criminal-related challenges, a perfect timeline would be that they would start in the 2025-2026 financial year. And just so the member can understand, when I refer to the 2025-2026 financial year, I refer to the provincial start of the financial year. Not 3 months later, which is the difference between local government and provincial and in our sphere Honourable Speaker. And I can't give the member a definitive timeline because there are anomalies outside of my control, outside of the City of Cape Town's control. But what is well within the community's control is that they do not allow further criminal-related challenges to occur on the Hague site, as we've seen now over the last period. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. I recognise the Honourable Bosman.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, through you to the Honourable Minister of Infrastructure. Minister, are you perhaps able to outline for the House what is the procedure for dealing with housing complaints currently within the Western Cape Provincial Government?
Thank you very much, Honourable Member, Honourable Minister.
No, thank you, Honourable Speaker, and through you to the member, thank you for, I think, a very good question. Again, given the number of inquiries that we get, number of inquiries that local government gets, and which is why we created, Honourable Member, a central portal or email address where if there's any human settlements, or in my case now, infrastructure-related inquiries, you can actually send an email, be it anonymous, or if you are willing to give us your real name, given the type of issues we deal with in human settlements, you can email it to ministry.infrastructure@westerncape.gov.za. Again, it's a centralized system. You will get a response within a minimum of 72 hours. And if there's a case, we will follow up. But that is the central point through which all correspondence is supposed to work in our province.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. I recognise Honourable Lekker.
In light of the response that we have received from the Minister, I would like to know whether the Provincial Department does prioritize people with disability and what actions will be taken to investigate such cases.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member, for that question. And before I allow the Minister to respond, I wish to remind the Honourable Members that you are allowed one follow-up question per question as per the question paper. Minister, I'm not going to dictate to you how you respond to that question. But just members, please, I request of you to please work with me within the rules as adopted by the House, and we were all in agreement once when we adopted those rules. Honourable Minister. Honourable Minister Mackenzie, is that a point of order?
Speaker, I just want to get clarity. I thought members are allowed 4 follow-up questions, but you indicate only 1. Are 4 different members allowed to ask each question each at a time? Just guide me with the rule again.
So thank you very much, Honourable Minister. There's 4 opportunities for follow-up questions to a minister. An individual member can ask more than 1 follow-up question, but when you have an opportunity to pose your follow-up question, you can only ask 1 question in that time slot. So you can't ask 2 questions in the same 1 allocated spot or slot. Does it make sense?
Just for my understanding, so 1 member is allowed 1 question, am I right? After each question, but 4 members allowed 1 question. Not 1 member is allowed 4 questions.
No. Honourable members.
Clarify that for me, please, Speaker.
Honourable members, as indicated at the beginning as indicated in the beginning of oral questions in terms of the rules. Honourable Minister Mackenzie, you posed the question, I'm responding to you, and you're conversing with the members on the other side. So in order for me to provide this, honourable members are allowed 4 follow-up questions. You have 4 opportunities to ask follow-up questions. In that 4 opportunities, you can only ask 1 question per opportunity. So you can ask 4 different questions at 4 different slots, but the first opportunity, the second opportunity, and third opportunity, and fourth opportunity, you can only ask 1 question. Honourable members, I have now addressed that. If there's any further, if you need any further clarity, the rules are at your disposal. Honourable Walters, is that an order, members? Is that a new point of order? Because I've already dealt with that point of order of clarity. What's your point of order?
Chairperson, I didn't want to interrupt the speaker either, but is it possible for you to make a ruling on whether the questions are prioritizing disabled residents, whether that is a part of the question? It could very well be, the individual concern might be, and I think it's an important question, but I just want to make sure that you were consistent with your rulings earlier. And I also suggest, of course, the Minister actually answer that question, but it's in the interest of ensuring consistency. If you could assist there, please.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. I've already ruled, actually. I have already ruled with regards to that point of order that is raised by Honourable Walters. I have indicated to the Minister. I'm not going to indicate how he should or should not respond. There's one opportunity for follow-up questions, honourable members. So I have ruled already, and according to my understanding, I have been consistent. If there's any member that feel that I have not been consistent, you can use the parliamentary process to challenge my rulings. Honourable Minister, I'm now going to continue. May continue. Honourable Mackenzie, I'm not going to entertain any more follow-up questions. All points of order on this matter I have ruled, and I've now recognized the Honourable Minister to respond.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and I will actually respond through you to Member Lekker's question. Again, that's why I said background and history is very important in human settlements. And many of the beneficiaries who were actually done in through the PHP program and projects, sadly, some of them are people with disability. Many of them were done in by scrupulous contractors. So what we have done, Honourable Speaker, through you to the member, in 2020, I announced the 5 priority beneficiaries in terms of the Western Cape. Number 2 on that list is persons with disability for a specific reason, because we need to ensure they live a good quality of life. The only thing is need to be qualifying beneficiaries, and I do want to thank, through you, Speaker, the Honourable Member, that's brought a number of cases to my attention which we are addressing together. Many of them are persons with serious disabilities, which is why they will be assisted as qualifying beneficiaries in other projects which the city is currently not able to do, to ensure that we restore the dignity in the quality of their lives, because again, many of them had hope in the People's Housing Program, but were done in by scrupulous contractors. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. Honourable members, unfortunately, we have reached the end of oral question, the time allotted for oral questions. So, Honourable Masipa, unfortunately, I cannot allow you to pose your question. Honourable members, that brings us to the end of questions for oral reply. Outstanding replies will be printed in Hansard. We now move on to statements by members in terms of Rule 145. Honourable members, there will be an opportunity for members' statements, and I recognise the Democratic Alliance. The DA.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. It is with a heavy heart that I'm asking this House to note the passing of one of the unsung heroes of South African politics, Mr. Greg Krombock. Mr. Krombock held many key positions from the 1990s to date in the Democratic Party and the Democratic Alliance. These positions included operational positions such as the National Director of the party, campaign manager positions, and he was also a resident election expert in the party. Furthermore, he diligently served as a Member of Parliament and a member of the NCOP in this period, making him one of the longest-serving Members of Parliament in our new democracy. Known for his relentless work ethic, intense perfectionism, and extraordinary intellect, Mr. Krombock was in many respects the electoral architect of the emergence of the DA as the official opposition, then the DA as a party of government here in this province, and lately a party part of national government. What is little known outside of our immediate circle was that Mr. Krombock was considered one of the top election experts in the world within the Liberal international family. was quite literally an unsung hero in how electoral politics shaped itself from 1997 to 2023. However, apart from his accomplishments as a political force, Mr. Kromrock showed a very human, vulnerable side that endeared him to those who worked with him. He was, amongst other things, a passionate believer and an active donor to the cause of animal rights. And on a very personal note, he happened to share a deep appreciation of Roman history with me. He was a quiet tsunami for the positive in South African politics and will be remembered as a great patriot. We will think of him canvassing the angels in heaven with his beloved cats around him. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Walters. I recognize the ANC.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. The African National Congress is deeply concerned by Premier Alan Windey's slow response and lack of transparency regarding the tragic building collapse in the George municipality. For months, the Premier has promised to investigate, yet progress has been frustratingly slow. The affected families and the public deserve more than delayed investigations and weekend press releases. We call for greater accountability from this provincial government. This includes regular and detailed updates in the Western Cape Provincial Legislature, not just through selective weekend media releases. The people of George and the broader Western Cape need assurances that this matter is being handled with the seriousness and urgency that it deserves. The ANC will continue to push for accountability and transparency to ensure justice for those affected by the tragedy. The Premier must prioritize this issue and provide clear, timely updates to the public and the elected representatives in this legislature. It's a pity that the Premier is not seated here, but we do hope that he has listened to the message. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honourable Syed. I recognize the Patriotic Alliance.
Dank u, Speaker. Die PA vra dat die premier 'n veelparty komitee aanstel wat kan help om die onderwyskrisis in die Wes-Kaap op te los.
Thank you very much, Honourable Petrus. I recognize the DA.
Honourable Speaker, since 2011, the Western Cape has been hit by 55 disasters, ranging from floods and droughts to wildfires, and with 30 of these occurring in the past 4 years alone. Yet, despite the growing frequency and severity of these disasters, accessing recovery funding from national government remains a challenge. Therefore, there's an urgent need to develop comprehensive policies, frameworks, and plans to address these challenges effectively. Projections show us that by 2030, the disaster risks could increase dramatically. In the last 2 years alone, disasters have caused 6 billion rand in damages in the Western Cape. And this is money that could have been spent on building our economy and strengthening communities. If we don't act now, the impacts will only get worse. Our province has shown great leadership in disaster response, thanks to the efforts of the Department of Local Government and the Provincial Disaster Management Centre, but we can't afford to become complacent. We need to improve our infrastructure to withstand climate impacts and invest in risk reduction strategies that protect our communities. The cost of inaction is simply too great. We must be proactive in safeguarding the Western Cape's future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Bryant. I recognize the Economic Freedom Fighters.
Thank you, Speaker. Unfair regulations regarding social relief of distress grant. The Economic Freedom Fighters welcome the legal challenge by the Pay the Grant and the Institute for Economic Justice against unfair regulations governing the social relief of distress grants, which will be heard later next month in the Pretoria High Court. The social relief of distress grant was introduced in 2020 at the start of COVID-19 pandemic in order to assist those living in an abrupt poverty and hunger. The grant was introduced as a short-term solution. However, it has since been extended a number of times, and eventually its amount was increased from 350 to 370, effective from 1st April 2024. Moreover, Speaker, the SRD grant is not without problems of its own, as its regulations and administration remain problematic for recipients and potential grant beneficiaries. Amongst the problems associated with its regulation, it is the manner in which the term income is defined in the regulations. The term is broad and has an effect of disqualifying a potential beneficiary due to monies deposited into their otherwise might not be intended for their own use. For example, the deposit might be 700 deposited for the purpose of child maintenance. The income threshold for qualifying potential beneficiaries is capped at 625, meaning a single mother receiving 700 child maintenance money into their bank account would not qualify for the SRD grant, which is so unfair. The EFF further calls for the SRD grant amount to be increased from 370, which is very little, to 2,000 or more.
Honourable Member, your time has expired. Can I please ask that you conclude?
Okay, thank you, Speaker. The Department of Social Development and South African Social Security Agency must also adopt a versatile system. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. I recognise the NCC.
Speaker.
Honourable Jacobs, you're audible.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, the National Coloured Congress rise in this House as we stand today against GBV, but also the marginalization of our women across the history of our country. From Kratoa, who died to 29 July 1674 after being banished to Robben Island for being troublesome, Saartjie Baartman, who perished on the 29th of December 1815 in France after being used as a freak show in Europe to entertain the very same people who later colonized South Africa. And then we have Colin Williams, who died on the 23rd of July 1989 while in the struggle of the liberation of our people. Speaker, we have just passed a month that we celebrate as Women's Month, giving recognition to Women's Day, a significant occasion that unifies our nation and builds our cultural heritage. Let us never forget that on the 9th of August 1956, approximately 20,000 courageous women marched to the Union buildings to protest against the country's past laws which restricted their rights and freedom. Now, Speaker, these women came from diverse backgrounds, cultures, and languages, but they stood together for a common purpose. They showed us that when we unite, we can achieve remarkable things. Now, as South Africans, we must continue their legacy. We must respect and appreciate the women in our lives and work towards a future where everyone has equal opportunities. We must also acknowledge the challenges that women still faces, such as gender-based violence and inequality. Speaker, let us rise beyond this level of confusion and build bridges between our communities and learn from each other's cultures to create a brighter future for us all. Let us honor the women who paved the way for us and inspire those who must still come after us. By celebrating women, we honor our past, we unite our present, and we inspire our future. We can make a difference if we start today. Uzakuva, I says.
Thank you very much, Honourable Jacobs. I recognise the ANC.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Ten spyte van die DEA se viering van die bereik van skoon audits in munisipaliteite, illustreer die harde werklikheid van wye finansiële wanpraktyke, wanbestuur en onreëlmatige uitgawes 'n veel somberder beeld van bestuur onder hulle toesig. In Cape sê die onlangse forensiek ondersoek kommerwekkend korrupsie aan die lig gebring wat betrokke is by die formale uitvoerende burgemeester Paul Swart, wat intussen aangestel is in nasionale parlement, guided deployment. Het die gedragskode oortree deur sy affiliasies met die Elm Community Trust, die Struisbaai SOS Funding Trust en Maree Family Trust nie bekend te maak nie. Die Elm Community Trust, waarvan hy die stigter was.
Honourable Stoffels, please take your seat. Honourable Masipa, please take your seat. Honourable members, there's a member on the floor. The honourable member is trying to utilise her right to make a submission in the form of a statement. Can I please ask that you allow the honourable member to do that? In terms of the rules, a member of the executive will have an opportunity to respond to any member's statement that has been delivered in the House during the sitting. Honourable member, can I please ask that you speak to me and I will make sure that you are protected. Honourable Stoffel, you may continue.
Thank you, Speaker.
Honourable member, please take your seat. Honourable Chief Whip, is that a point of order?
Yes, Chairperson. The honourable
member.
What
is your point of order?
The member is casting aspersions on an honourable member of this House and needs to bring a substantive motion if she is making allegations to the House.
Honourable member, did you refer to any member of this House?
No, Speaker.
All right, thank you. The honourable member has said no. There's an honourable Stoffels, please take your seat. Honourable Chief Whip, what is your point of order?
Honourable Speaker, I'm not sure if the member is not familiar with the members of the WCPP, but Honourable Paul Swart is a member of the WCPP, acting as our representative to the National Council of Provinces.
Order, members. Order, members. Members, honourable members, there was a point of order. The member, I've allowed the honourable member to ask. I asked the honourable member if she is referred to anyone in the House. The honourable member said no. The Chief Whip rose again to inform me that the reference was named to the Honourable Paul Swart. I will consult Hansard and revert back to the House. Can I just remind honourable members that you may not reflect on members of the House, and if you do so, I will ask you to withdraw. You must please use the rules, i.e. a substantive motion, if you want to bring the attention of the House to any such allegations. Honourable Stoffels, in the interest of providing you with an opportunity, I'm going to allow you to continue.
Die Elam Community Trust, waarvan hy 'n stigter is met 30.000 bekroon sonder behoorlike bekendmaking. Verder in Augustus 2021, net voor die plaaslike verkiesing, 950.000 aan 62 organisasies aangewys sonder formele versoeke vir befondsing. Hierdie blitante verontagsaming van die munisipaliteit se donasiebeleid het tot onreëlmatige uitgawes gelei. Geen regstellende aksies is geneem nie. Eerder hy is in 'n veilige landing in die nasionale parlement gegee. In Witzenburg is beweerde finansiële wanpraktyke deur senior bestuurders by die raad weggesteek, deur destydse burgemeesters Hendrik Smit en Speaker Elizabeth Sidigo. Dit het ingesluit die toekenning
member,
van
your time has expired. Please conclude. Die tyd is verstreke. Kan jy asseblief afsluit?
Dat het ingesluit die toekenning van 3 miljoen in die akkommodasievoordele van Mafoko Sekuriteit.
Baie dankie, agbare lid. Honourable members, just for the record, I'm going to consult Hansard and honourable member if there was any reference to a member of the House and reflection on a member. I'm going to discard it as if you did not deliver the statement in the House. Honourable members, we move on. I recognise the DA.
Honourable Speaker, September is National Heritage Month, during which we take the time to celebrate our shared history and to reflect on our progress as a nation. But less well known is the fact that it is also National Wills Month. The loss of a loved one is always especially painful, but too often it is made even more difficult by an ensuing dispute over the distribution of property and other assets. For many in our country and in our province, an officially executed document dealing with the distribution of one's assets after death remains out of reach. The presence of a carefully considered and professionally drafted will can prevent this. But it is vital that we highlight the necessity of this document. There are also many who have drafted their last wills, but who lack the sufficient legal knowledge to ensure that the requirements of the law are met with regards to testamentary writings. Sadly, errors and inconsistencies in one's will are typically only uncovered after death and can have the effect of voiding the document. Between the 16th to the 20th of this month, participating law firms across South Africa will offer their services to draft basic wills for free. This initiative, organised by the Law Society of South Africa, gives anyone the chance to ensure that their freedom of testation is upheld without incurring any financial cost. Participating firms will be listed on the Law Society website, and I encourage anyone who does not yet have a proper will to make use of the opportunity this initiative offers. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Van Minnen. I recognise the Freedom Front Plus.
Baie dankie, Speaker. Agbare Speaker, die Vryheidsfront Plus is bekommerd oor die potensiële verlies van hoogs gekwalifiseerde onderwysers wat 'n baie belangrike rol speel in die kwaliteit van ons skoolonderwys. Die regering van Nasionale Eenheid en die DA Nasionale Minister van Onderwys moet verseker dat ons aller onderwysers behou wat tans in die Weskaapse skole werk. Daar is ook berigte in die koerante wat aandui dat Afrikaanse klasse verminder het, terwyl dit die moedertaal is van die meerderheid inwoners van die Weskaap. Die verwagting rus natuurlik op die regering van Nasionale Eenheid om die vertroue en hoop van alle Suid-Afrikaners te herstel en moedertaalonderrig te beskerm. Terwyl daar ook berig word dat omtrent 1000 skole in die Oos-Kaap gaan sluit weens lae hoeveelheid leerders, ervaar die Weskaap eksponensiële groei in leerders. Daar kan nie meer vinger gewys word slegs na die ANC as alleen regeerder nie. Die land se toekoms is nou in ons almal se hande wat deel vorm van die regering van Nasionale Eenheid. Baie dankie.
Baie dankie, agbare lid. I recognize Al-Jamaa.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Teachers are our greatest asset, and reducing the number of teachers in our schools will negatively impact learning outcomes. So this is a decision that we have not taken lightly, said MEC David Mania. As usual, when this province takes decisions that will negatively impact on the lives of mainly the poor, working class and already under-resourced schools, it conveniently puts the blame on national government by using the wage agreement as a scapegoat. The wage agreement should not be used as a scapegoat. The department must comply with the formula and learner to teacher ratio. It is misleading to say that the department is not firing and retrenching educators. The decision to relocate permanent teachers to other schools is nothing more than an old apartheid tactic to further overcrowd our classrooms and overburden educators. We cannot afford to lose any more educators. We have a shortage of schools, and this province is crippling the children's right to quality education. This province is also known to have returned unspent budget to the national treasury, while schools are understaffed, lack proper resources, and classrooms are overcrowded. There seems to be an onslaught against educators. If they are too progressive, they face harassment and in eventual demotion or dismissal. Contract teachers face disillusionment in this noble career. They chose as they are denied the chance to a stable future and to be of service to provide education to our children. Al-Jamaa is against any decisions which put the education of our learners at risk. Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. I recognize the ACDP.
Thank you, Speaker. I also want to voice my opinion, my voice to the reduction of the basket of teaching posts, 2,407 teachers. It's a major concern, and the ICTP wants to reiterate that the bomb is about to explode. The unions came forward and said, stop the plan to cut teachers or we will strike. We are worried that the unions will push a political agenda and deprive our children of learning. Professor Jonathan Jansen also said on the Voice of the Cape, he said, this is extremely alarming, not just for the Western Cape, but also for the rest of the country as well. This signals a crisis. And he says further, he says, he cannot understand that the national government cannot look at our learners and feed the bill. He says, and I don't know, but he says that classes will extend from 60 to 80 learners, and the national government must prioritize the funding of our learners. He says, are you telling me that the national fiscus, you cannot prioritize a single most important sector in society? I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Christians. I recognize the DA.
Thank you, Speaker. For many communities, especially rural ones, drugs and other substances are used as a means of escape from poverty. When these habits are passed down to younger generations, the quality of education is affected, opportunities are limited, and the cycle of poverty repeats into perpetuity. In the 1990s, several European countries suffered from high levels of alcohol, tobacco, and harmful drug use in their schools, just as we in South Africa do today. While many of these countries turned to school-based instruction and education programs, Iceland took a different route. They developed the Iceland prevention model using a community-based approach designed to deter adolescent substance abuse. The emphasis was to get the relevant stakeholders to the table and to build a network of support, monitoring, and opportunities for positive youth development at the local community level. The success achieved has led to this program being implemented around the world. Early in 2023, George became the pilot site for launching Planet Youth on the African continent. In March, April 2023, 6,400 grade 8 and 9 students from 18 George schools answered various questions on their intake of a variety of food and substances, as well as their attitudes towards schooling and general life circumstances. The data from this survey has been used to introduce measures of support and activities over time to assist in behaviour change. Involving the Western Cape Departments of Education, Health, Social Development, Culture and Sport, this program of Planet Youth represents the Western Cape Government's ceaseless desire to innovate and institute cutting-edge projects which mobilise all of society against pervasive social ills. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Van Wyk. Honourable members, in terms of Rule 145, subsection 6, I now give one or more members of the Executive an opportunity to respond to members' statements for not more than 5 minutes collectively. Recognise the Honourable Minister Bredell.
Honourable Chairperson, thank you. On the George building collapse, what a tragedy. But if that tragedy happened in any other province, many more people would have been dead. We have received a 54% recovery rate, the best in the world. Honourable Chairperson, but the ANC, it's such a shame, shameful organisation. You know, they don't ask a report from the Department of Labour. They don't ask a report from SAPS because they're in control of those institutions. I can tell you that this Premier of this Western Cape, although it's not his responsibility, he will bring a report, Honourable Chairperson. There was no one
Honourable Minister, please take your seat. Honourable members, there was a member Honourable Nkondlo, I'm on the floor. Honourable members, there was an opportunity for members to make member statements. In terms of the rules, it's now the members of the Executive's opportunity to respond to those statements. Can I please ask members that you do not engage the Minister now? If you want any further follow-ups, you're more than welcome to do that after the sitting, or use the parliamentary processes to pose another question. But the minister is now, in terms of the rule, isn't allowed an opportunity to respond. And as I protect you when you're on the floor, I will protect the minister. Minister, you may continue.
Honourable Chair, thank you, Speaker. Speaker, and the Premier spent hours on that site to understand what has happened there and to realise that we need to get engineers to do the investigation. This is complex investigations from the quality of steel to quality of cement, etc. And we will come up with a report. We won't lie to the people like the ANC, go to the site emotionally and tell people that they will pay them UIF. They're not registered UIF, they cannot pay them. They make misuse of people as they always does. Honourable Chairperson, on disaster management, yes, and we have got a huge shortfall, but luckily we're in the Western Cape. The ANC again, because of corruption, and they won't be able to reimburse us, but we will work hard to safeguard our people. To the Honourable Member Stoffel, sy moet miskien net eers gaan uitvind en die reëls, en iemand moet haar miskien net so 'n bietjie klas gee, agbare Speaker. Want agbare Speaker, as sy kriminele klagtes het, moet sy dit gaan lê by die polisie. Dis waar dit hoort. Sy kan nie hiermee sit nie en speel met mense se lewens nie. Sy moet na die polisie toe gaan, agbare Speaker. Honourable Speaker, I'm very proud to be a member of this Parliament and be a member that will bring, together with the Premier and Minister Simmers, a report to showcase the people of this province that we care. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. I reckon order members. Honourable Minister of Education, Honourable Minister Mania.
Thank you, Speaker. I think we all share the Honourable Member's concern about the impact of the fiscal emergency on education in our province. But Speaker, the national government is not a scapegoat. The national government is responsible, and this situation arises out of the fact that the national government failed to fully fund the 2023 wage agreement. And I have to agree with the honourable members. This is a crisis, but it's not just a crisis in our province, it's a crisis in all provinces, and it's probably a crisis that is even more acute in other provinces. And it's precisely for that reason that the National Minister of Basic Education, Saviwe Gwarube, has stepped in and will convene a special KEM to consider the impact of the fiscal emergency on education in all provinces in our country. And I would urge honourable members, to join us rather than fight us as we work to save our teachers here in the Western Cape. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. Honourable members of the Executive, are there any further inputs? If not, that brings us to the end of members' statements. Honourable members, we now move on to notices of motions in terms of Rule 151. In terms of Rule 151, all notices of motions by members are required to be delivered to the Secretary for placing on the order paper. These motions have been duly submitted and published on the order paper below the line. We now move on to motions without notice in terms of Rule 150. I would like to inform you that in terms of Standing Rule 150, pertaining to motions without notice, condolences and congratulatory were submitted to the Programming Authority prior to this plenary on the 3rd of September 2024. Members are also reminded that motions without notices pertaining to congratulatory and condolences will not be allowed in this sitting that have not been processed by the Programming Authority. I have been informed that in the Programming Authority meeting of the 3rd of September 2024, political parties did submit the names of the honourable members in the desired order of speaking and who had wished to move a motion without notice in this sitting of the House. I will therefore, just for noting and for the purposes of the minutes, call out the honourable members whose names have accordingly been submitted and approved. The following members' motions have been approved by the Programming Authority as follows: Honourable D.G. Jacobs, Honourable F.C. Christians, Honourable M.K. Syed, Honourable N.K. Syed, Honourable T.C.R. Walters, Honourable T.C.R. Walters. Honourable members, I now put the motions duly submitted and approved by the Programming Authority to the House. Honourable members, are there any objections to the motions? No objections, agreed to, and the motions will appear in the minutes of the proceedings and in Hansard in each individual member's name as if the member had read them out aloud. Honourable members, I will now afford the opportunity to members to move motions without notice in terms of Standing Rule 150, subsection 2, subsection D. This could also include motions without notice that were not approved by the Programming Authority meeting. And members, you are reminded that 30 minutes as per Standing Rule 150, subsection 2, subsection D will start now. I recognize the Honourable Kasim.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, I move without notice that the House note that on Friday, the 30th of August 2024, about 80 security guards picketed outside Grootes Schuur Hospital over late salary payments by Gold Security Services, which is contracted to the Western Cape Department of Health for purposes of providing security services. The security company only started providing services on the 1st of July this year and had promised workers that they will be paid on the 15th of each and every month. Which has never happened to date. It then became a norm that the company would pay the employees on any random day after the 15th without any explanation. The EF reiterates its call for the insourcing of all security guards, cleaners, and other employees stationed and providing services in government department buildings and institutions across all levels of government. I so move.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. Honourable members, are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? There is an objection and the motion will be printed on the order paper. I move on to Honourable Lita Kong.
Thank you, Speaker. I move without notice for the House to note that on Wednesday, 4 September 2024, police in the Eastern Cape shot and killed 2 men who were part of the extortion syndicate in Mthatha. The shooting incident is reported to have been started by the extortionist gang, while the police retaliated thereafter. Further note that killed is a chief, Dalinzolo, who is said to be the kingpin behind these recent extortions initiated against schools in Mthatha. A similar incident also took place last week in the province, where 4 men alleged to have been part of the extortionist gang were shot and killed by police in Malnerton, while 4 others remain wounded after they also opened fire against the police shot back. In conclusion, by stating that while shootouts create a dangerous environment for communities, the police efforts must be embraced. That extortionists will realize that and hope that they will abandon their criminal campaign. I so move. Thank you, Somlomo.
Thank you very much, Honourable Lita Kong. Honourable members, are there any objection to the motion being moved without notice? There is an objection and the motion will be printed on the order paper. Order members, there is an objection, so we move on to Honourable Van Vogel. Honourable Van Vogel, order members.
I can't see now. Thank you, Speaker. I move without notice that the House notes with grave concern the recent protest action undertaken by the security guards employed by Golden Security Service at Grootes Schuur Hospital and Heideveld Day Hospital, caused by ongoing salary payments disputes. Notes further that these protest actions have placed the lives of both patients and workers in jeopardy and intensify the difficulties faced by hospital staff and cause significant inconvenience to the smooth functioning of these critical healthcare facilities. Calls on the Department of Health and Wellness to immediately investigate these issues as a matter of urgency, as it is morally unacceptable to exploit labor in this manner. And it is imperative that the department ensures that all its suppliers adhere to ethical labor practices. Further calls on the department to intervene decisively to assist the affected security guards, address their grievance, and ensure that Golden Security Service rectify any shortcomings that practices, and as the provincial government to hold to account the company Golden Security Service for its failure to meet its contractual and legal obligation to its employees and take appropriate actions to ensure that all its suppliers comply with all relevant labour laws and regulations. I so move.
Thank you very much, Honourable Windvogel. Honourable members, are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? Is there an objection? No objections. Agreed to. I move on to the next motion. Honourable Lekker. Order, members.
Thank you, Speaker. That the House notes with grave concern the current challenges and tensions surrounding the relocation of informal farmers occupying state-owned land in East Rivier, as the planned relocation to areas that are already occupied has exacerbated community tensions and threatens the livelihood of these farmers. Notes further and acknowledges the profound impact this situation has on the livelihoods of the informal farmers, as the proposed relocation sites are not only inadequate in size to accommodate their livestock, but also cause further displacement of existing residents. Adding to the community's overall strain, calls for the protection of farmers' livelihoods by ensuring that any relocation plans account for adequate space, proper facilities, and the preservation of their agricultural activities, as it is crucial that the relocation does not adversely affect their ability to continue farming and supporting their families. Further calls on the provincial government to end the tensions in the community by releasing a suitable and adequately sized parcel of land for the relocation of these families to a land that is free from current occupation, and calls on the provincial government to facilitate a dialogue between all affected parties to address concerns and prevent conflict. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Lekker. Honourable members, are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? There is an objection and the motion will be printed on the order paper. I recognise the Honourable Nkondlo.
Apologies, Speaker. Thank you, Speaker. I move without motion that the House notes with deep concern the recent financial and operational crisis faced by Mineral Sands Resources, which owns the Tomin mine on the West Coast, which has led to a severe cash flow shortage, resulting in the delayed payment of August salaries to employees and placing the mine's future in jeopardy. Notes further the severe impact the crisis has had on the livelihoods of the employees at Tomin mine, as the inability to pay salaries not only affects the financial stability of workers, but also exacerbates the economic hardships faced by their families. Calls for an expedited resolution to the financial difficulties at Tomin mine, as it is imperative that business rescue practitioners and management work swiftly to stabilize the company's financial situation, ensure that overdue salaries are paid promptly, and restore normal operation as soon as possible. And in light of the gravity of the situation and its potential to affect many jobs and local economy, calls upon the three spheres of government to work together to intervene and support the business rescue process and provide strategic guidance to help the company navigate its crisis whilst protecting jobs and ensuring the continued operation of the mine. I so move.
Thank you very much, Honourable Nkondlo. Honourable members, are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? No objections. Agreed to. I recognise Honourable Windvogel.
Thank you, Speaker. I move without notice that the House notes with deep concern the continuous decision by this DA-led provincial government to cut 2,407 teaching posts effective January 2025, despite heightened broad-based opposition to this nonsensical decision. Further notes and rejects this reckless decision as it has been made without adequate consideration of the severe consequences it will have on the quality of education in the province. especially for learners in previously disadvantaged schools. Further note that reducing teaching posts by over 2,400 will have a devastating impact on poor learners from previously disadvantaged schools that cannot afford to employ additional educators through school governing bodies, which will lead to even greater educational disparities, larger class sizes, decreased individual attention, and overall diminished educational outcomes. Calls on the WCED to reconsider its decision to cut teaching posts instead of reducing the number of educators. The bedrock of our education system, the WECD should explore alternative cost-saving measures, such as cutting expenditures on less critical programs like the Back on Track program at the School Evaluation Authority. Urge the WCED to adopt a more equitable approach that protects the quality of education for all learners and address the specific needs of schools that serve economically and disadvantaged communities, as it is essential that the WECD engage in meaningful consultation with educators, parents, and community stakeholders to ensure that any budgetary adjustments do not disproportionately harm those who are already at a disadvantage, and calls on all the progressive forces and education stakeholders, including activists and civic organizations, to unite in rejecting this move by the DA-led government. I so move.
Thank you very much, Honourable Windvogel. Honourable members, are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? There is an objection and the motion will be printed on the order paper. I recognize Honourable Nkondlo.
Enkosi Somlomo. Somlomo, I move without notice that the House notes with appreciation the recent improvement in the Business Confidence Index, which has risen by 3 points to reach 38 in the third quarter of 2024, marking the highest level of business confidence since the fourth quarter of 2022. Further notes and welcomes this positive development as a sign of improving business conditions and investor optimism in South Africa, and commits to working collaboratively with businesses and policymakers to ensure that the gains in business confidence translate into tangible economic benefits for all sectors of the economy. I so move.
Thank you very much, Honourable Nkondlo. Honourable members, are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? No objections, no need to debate it. There is no objection and the motion is agreed to. I recognize the Honourable Barnes.
Thank you, Speaker. I move without notice that the House notes and welcomes the recent development where the South African Police Service successfully confiscated 400 bricks of cocaine worth 252 million from 2 suspects in Stilbaai, as well as the arrest of the suspects, which followed a high-speed chase and a detailed investigation. Notes further that the swift response by Stilbaai officers, including the pursuit and apprehension of the suspects and the seizure of such a large quantity of illicit drugs, demonstrates the commendable bravery and efficiency, represents a significant blow to the drug trade, and highlights the capacity of our SAPS officers, acknowledges the vital role of community support in aiding SAPS efforts, and encourages continued public vigilance and cooperation with police operations, as this essential is ensuring the effectiveness of crime fighting initiatives and maintaining public safety, and commends the SAPS for their diligence, professionalism, and effective operations leading to this successful bust. I so move.
Thank you very much, Honourable Barnes. Honourable members, are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? No objections. Agreed to. I recognize the Honourable Stoffel.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Motion without notice that the House notes and welcomes the significant progress made in the reopening of the Central Line, specifically the resumption of train services from Nolungile train station in Site C to Cape Town, acknowledges that this development has significantly improved transportation options for residents, providing affordable and reliable travel at rates starting from 9 rands, with further discount available of peak. Commend the National Department of Transport and PRASA for the sterling work in reaching this stage of Central Line reopening. Notes further and express concern that devolution of rail of privatization as proposed by some in the House could undermine the quality of service and lead to increased fares and reject these reckless calls, and reaffirm support for maintaining rail services under national oversight, ensuring that they continue to function optimally and remain accessible to all. I so move.
Thank
Can I be protected
Honorable,
from the honorable member, from all of you?
honorable order members, honorable member,
It's harassment.
order members, order members. Honorable Stoffel, when you're on the Honorable Stoffel, when you're on the floor, I will absolutely protect you. But when you take your seat and you're no longer on the floor, I cannot protect you. Honorable members, I have not had an opportunity to put the motion to the House. Are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? There is an objection and it will be printed on the order paper. Honorable members, once it's printed on the order paper, it could potentially come back to the House for debate. So there's no need to debate it now. There is an objection and it is printed on the order paper. I now move on to Honorable Windvogel.
Honourable Speaker, I move without notice that the House notes with deep concern the recent decision by the Western Cape Education Department to terminate learner transport service for students residing in Vredebest and surrounding farms who are enrolled at Ceres Primary School and Morrisdale Primary School. Further notes the decision also affects high school learners enrolled at Bella Vista High School who reside in Klipbrug and surrounding farms. Further notes and rejects the WCED's decision to discontinue these vital transport services, as the action will have a devastating impact on the affected students, particularly those from low-income households who rely heavily on these services to attend school. Acknowledge that unexpected termination of transport service is likely to lead to increased absenteeism and a high dropout rate among these vulnerable learners. Notes further that the termination of learner transport service will disproportionately affect poor learners, educational inequalities and hindering their ability to access quality education, and calls on the WCED to urgently reconsider this decision and reinstate the learner transport service. I so move.
Thank you very much, Honourable Windvogel. Honourable members, are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? There is an objection and it will be printed on the order paper. I recognise the Honourable Kamfer.
Dankie, Honourable Speaker. Ek stel voor 'n mosie sonder kennis, Speaker. Kan ek voortgaan?
U mag voortgaan.
Dankie, Speaker. Speaker, dat die huis met diep kommer kennis neem van die onlangse tragiese busongeluk op die Van Rynspad tussen Nieuwswil en Van Rynstop in die Weskaap, wat groot verlies van lewens gelei het, Speaker. Verder ook dan kennis te neem van die mense wat in die hospitale is, Speaker. Dan wil ek ook kennis neem dat die bus met 42 passasiers van die Noord-Kaap na die Weskaap vervoer het. Met die kant van die berghelm het die drywer die beheer verloor en daarvoor het hy die bus omgegooi teen die kant. Ons opregte simpatie aan die familie en die geliefdes wat lewens verloor het, aan hulle vriende en kinders en familie. Speaker, verder wil ons sê, wil ons 'n beroep doen op alle bestuurders om groot sorg en waaksaam te wees wanneer hulle op gevaarlike en uitdagende roetes ry, aangesien padveiligheid 'n gesamentlike verantwoordelikheid is en die bestuurde veiligheidsregulasies moet nakom en waaksaam moet bly om sulke verwoeste ongelukke te vermy. Spreker ten laaste wil ons 'n beroep doen op die provinsiale regering om aandag te gee onmiddellik in padveiligheidsmaatreëls toe te pas op sulke tipe paaie soos die van reispas en soortgelyke en ek dank u.
Baie dankie, agbare lid. Honourable members, are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice?
So, Honourable Speaker, can we just, because there's more families at part, it's not 9, it's 12, can the member change his disservice to those that are not mentioned in here? It's not 9, it's 12. So that's why we're objecting, not because of the motion itself, but not to be rude to the other families who's not in this motion. So we object by the other.
Honourable members, order members, honourable members, I'm putting the motion to the House. Are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? Honourable Mackenzie, then so you're objecting to the motion being moved without notice? All right. So there's an objection to the motion being moved without notice and to the motion itself. So it will be printed on the order paper. I move on to Honourable Christians.
Thank you, Speaker. I move without notice that the House notes the concern that extortionists targeting schools. Basic Education Minister Siviwe Garube has raised deep concerns about the increasing rate of extortion in the Eastern Cape. Criminal networks are expanding operations in schools. If this crisis is allowed to flourish in the centers of learning, it will have dire consequences for education. We must stamp it out before it takes root in the Western Cape and other provinces. Extortionists will not limit their operations to the Eastern Cape, but will spread their wickedness in the Western Cape. The ACDP cautions about the spread of education extortionists whose actions will have serious repercussions for all, teachers and learners alike. They will force their evil intentions upon the schools. Lives have been lost due to the mindless violence perpetrated by extortionists in the construction industry. We must prepare to offer combined resistance to the pending disaster looming our horizon. I so move.
Thank you very much, Honourable Christians. Honourable members, are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? There is an objection and the motion will be printed on the order paper. I recognise Honourable Bryant.
Speaker, I hereby move without notice that this House notes with approval the City of Cape Town's achievement in being named the national winner of the WWF's 2024 One Planet City Challenge, and notes further that this competition rewards cities for their efforts in both mitigation and adaptation to the effects of climate change, and that the jury for the competition found the city had achieved a striking balance between adaptation and mitigation efforts, which has been integrated with the UN strategic development goals across all departments. And lastly, notes that it is future-orientated and innovative governance that makes such an achievement possible.
Thank you very much, Honourable Bryant. Honourable members, are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? No objections. Agreed to. I recognise the Honourable Wessels.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I would like to move without notice that the City of Cape Town Human Settlements Directorate held an open day for community members to discuss the plans for a new social housing project in the Lansdowne area. 2, that the proposed affordable housing development will yield approximately 308 social housing opportunities for qualifying beneficiaries. And 3, that the city's action seeks to make affordable housing projects more feasible for private sector partners by offering developmental packaging, land discounts, and leveraging municipal land to make projects more viable for private sector partners. Over the past year, through the accelerated land release program. They have been making significant interventions in the market with an estimated 10,000 units underway. I would like to move. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Honourable Wessels. Honourable members, are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? No objections. Agreed to. I recognise Honourable Wessels.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I would like to move without notice that the House notes that on Tuesday, the 27th of August 2024, Provincial Minister for Infrastructure handed over the first batch of houses at the Railton housing project in Swellendam. And secondly, that the House further notes that this catalytic project is set to deliver a total of 950 housing units, providing much needed homes to the residents of Swellendam. I move so. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Honourable Wessels. Honourable members, are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? No objections. Agreed to. I recognise the Honourable Bryant.
I move without notice, Speaker, that this House notes the Premier and Minister Bredel's engagements with the new municipal management in Beaufort West and Laingsburg to address key issues and ensure sustainable governance to improve service delivery. I so move.
Thank you very much, Honourable Bryant. Honourable members, are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? No objections. Agreed to. I recognise the Honourable Wessels.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I would like to move without notice that the House notes that the City of Cape Town has started the construction of stormwater infrastructure along Yaftakai Masimola Road between Baden-Powell Drive and Nyanda Avenue. The outlet of the existing stormwater drainage system is currently blocked as a result of the establishment of the island informal settlement, which is causing road flooding at the low point of the Aftake Masimola Road when it rains. The installation of the new stormwater infrastructure will alleviate the risk of the flooding along the Aftake Masimola Road, thereby extending the longevity of the city's road network and improving the safety for all road users. I so move.
Thank you very much, Honourable Wessels. Honourable members, are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? There is an objection and the motion will be printed on the order paper. Order, members. Order. Honourable members, I did not want to interrupt proceedings during the round of motions without notice we have just concluded. But I've noticed that a number of these motions without notice did not comply with the rules as far as the form and substance of motions were concerned. I want to put on record that I appreciate the fact that honourable members may not have had the required orientation in this regard and will therefore direct that the procedural staff reach out to these members in whose name the procedurally problematic motions appear with a view to making them compliant with the rules. Honourable members, that concludes motions without notice. But before we conclude the business for the day, I would like to take this opportunity, or allow me this opportunity, honourable members, to congratulate Mr. Shelton Fortuin for 20 years of dedicated service to the Western Cape Provincial Parliament. Mr. Fortuin, on behalf of all the members present, thank you very much for 20 years of dedicated service to the Western Cape Provincial Parliament, but also to the citizens of this beautiful province that we are privileged to serve, and for 20 years that you have seen many members come and go, but you're still here, so thank you very much, and thank you for the years that you will still contribute to this institution. Thank you very much. Honourable members, with that being said, that concludes the business for the day. The House will be adjourned. The Secretary will now end the meeting and all members will be exited from the sitting. The House is adjourned.